All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Before we get started, we have a covenant prior to pledge, and you ask Mr. Cox to prior you pledge for us this morning.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here this morning. We thank you for all that you do for us and you give us. We ask you to be with us as board members as we prepare to get into the budget process. And just let us be wise in our decisions and open-minded and do the best that we can. Watch over us, protect us, be with all those out there in the storm today, and guide and direct them in Jesus' name. Amen.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
I know we kind of jumped around at the other meeting. Could we go back and just start at the top and do each block? And if anybody has a question, they can ask it, and we just go through the budget that way, rather
Sounds
than
good to
bouncing
me.
around too much.
Yep.
Is
Sounds
that
good to
okay
me.
with you, Levi?
I don't have any particular way.
Well,
You are used to a disorderly outfit.
it's just easier for me to keep up rather than, like I might have a question on page 16, she's got one on 15, she's got one on 13. We just go page by page, and then anybody that's,
Simplest.
Easier on.
yeah, that'd be nice for you to follow too? Okay,
well.
thank you.
And let me say this right quick before Dr. Twiller gets in here. When we have people that comes in to make their presentation, just let them finish theirs before we start asking questions. Because if I'm doing something like that and somebody asks me a question, it throws me off. It takes me a while to catch back up. So if we let them finish, if you got a question, just jot it down. And when they get on, then we can start asking questions. And also at the end of the meeting, I think Jerry said something the other day, I was eavesdropping about making a list of roads that needs guardrails.
Yeah,
Maybe we can take like 15 minutes at the end of the meeting and do that.
okay,
So,
yeah, if we could, or whatever it takes.
right.
While Delegate March is interested in helping us, I told her I'd try to do my best to get the information to her, so.
Because I seen a couple places this morning coming down the road, I think we need one. So, and I think Dr. Millsap had a
Yes.
announcement to you.
Oh, real quick, sorry. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And when I finish, if you don't mind, if we can go back, and I think you probably need to make sure you have a quorum. So,
okay.
if you don't mind that. But yes, my quick announcement is I just found out last night, thanks to Marty Holliday, who brought it to my attention that Floyd was not represented on a group that's supposed to start meeting Friday morning, and it was an oversight. But the group that was, it's essentially, it's the New River Valley RSE, which is set the regional economic development strategy for the New River Valley. So this is separate from Go Virginia and that, but they create, that strategy is called a CED, C-E-D. Yes, and so if you had your SEDS is kind of what you are telling the US EDA what your plan is, and then if the projects or direction that kind of lays out what the plan is, so then EDA can potentially fund things. So it's very important that we be represented and be a part of that conversation. Found out last night that historically, we have been represented by a couple of citizen members, and they, for whatever reason, they are no longer participating. And so I've asked Ladina, since it doesn't have to be a board appointment, but I felt like it was really important that we've done this. So we've moved from having citizen folks that I've asked Ladina to go and represent Floyd County's interest as it relates to a regional economic development strategy. And so she's very pleased to do that and will be in that meeting Friday. And want to thank Kevin Bird for being so responsive and so quick to say, sure, come along. Not sure how we ended up, again, with no one there. I think it was because the citizen folks just haven't returned. But really appreciate him and Ladina stepping in. So with that, Mr. Chair, that was my announcement real quick. And would you like me to call the roll for the quorum? All right. Ms. Bechtold.
Here.
Ms. Cookenbook.
Here.
Mr. Cox.
Here.
Mr. Booth.
Present.
Thank you. That is determined.
Everybody's got a nut.
All right, so I will make that a full quorum. Thank you, sir. And as you noted, and I hope I mentioned to you the other day, we can, of course, invite folks in at whatever schedule you would like, but the three folks that I knew for sure you would want to talk to would, of course, be Dr. Wheeler, so he's here this morning. Also, Kevin Sowers is on deck to talk to you when you're done with Dr. Wheeler, if you would like to talk about all the things related to emergency management, and because there's some very big ticket items that are unusual in the budget for that part of our organization. And then Sheriff Craig is planning to come next week. So as we go through line by line, as Mr. Booth has pointed out, if there are particular groups or individuals you would like us to reach out to schedule for future meetings, just let us know that. But that's what we have so far.
Dr. Wheeler?
Good morning.
Morning.
It's always a pleasure to come talk to you all, and this is not the first time we've been down this road where the budget won't be ready from the state April 1st, so. I think the big things here to look at is we're still progressing with the 6-year plan, and to get where we are right now, we have to be efficient, and we have been efficient with the numbers. So there has been things that have been released from the budget just to get to this point. This is basically the salaries and 5% raises. Also, we haven't had any increase in sponsor supplements, athletic, BHSL competition, and we have a lot of supplements like 504 coordinators. We have a lot of people doing a lot of things. That hasn't been increased in well over 10 years. So it's not a huge amount, but it is something that at least gets us competitive. That's included in this too. The state right now, we don't have a budget. We have the House and Senate. We'll see how it works out. If you go completely to the House, that is about $100,000 less than this budget. If that happens, then we'll just have to go back as a board and see what we need to do from that standpoint. I don't foresee, and I haven't, and have never in my 6 years come back and say we need this, we need that. I'd like to be efficient with it, and we'll see what we can do. The bottom line is the number of staff we have is what we need, and that has decreased over the years. The other thing, keep in mind, is the specialty positions and the high needs, whether it's learning loss, whether it's mental health, whether it's behavior. We've been able to reallocate positions, not add them to those, and we need another one next year. That's not in there. The other things that aren't in there are the increased cost of goods. I mean, obviously our collaboration center, we're going to have some great things going on there, but just the normal cost of goods is over 150% increase. So these aren't hundreds of thousands of dollars we're talking about, but that's not in there. The other thing, keep in mind, is our CARES, we had a little over $6 million, well over $5 million was to redo what was taken out of the HVAC, which is fine, but it doesn't leave us with any CARES to do other things with. There is a 20% that we use, and we're outfitting classrooms with the very best technology, the very best instructional resources. That has helped us tremendously because that did not have to come out of our budget this time. So that's the only reason that we're at that minimal amount. And I want to keep it minimal, but we can't keep going negative for 5 years. And I think my fault is I'd like to, but I keep being reminded by a lot of people, stop that. But our budget is very streamlined from that standpoint. And we'll see what happens with the final budget. I'd like to say that what you see there is going to be it. Because if it is less, we're just going to have to talk about and see what we have to do. I think the 5%, without a doubt, needs to stay. I did the study 4 years ago now. I did the study. I mean, we were sitting here, and Mr. Vito, you remember, you thought we were going to have to dish out $500,000, $600,000 to redo all our scales because they were bad. We were woefully 12th out of the 12 divisions in every one of the subsections of teachers. Teachers go 0, 5, 5, 10. That's how the state compares them. We're much better now, this 5% from the state, and that's how it should work. And we don't need to come to you. Almost, I would say, 80% of school divisions do, because the state gives us barely 2/3 of only the SOQ positions. So we don't even get the full funding from the state when they do that for all the SOQ positions, much less all the other employees. And that's kind of the efficiency and the model that this budget works off of. And fortunately, the pay scales mechanically work, and that has to be the case because that's 81% of your budget. If those things are broken, your budget's going to be hurting. And, you all experienced that. Ours is pretty good at this point from that standpoint. So that's in there, which is beautiful. We'll utilize every fund from the state with that. And then we'll see when the actual budget comes out. There are still some things that we need to do. We have 2 more years on our CARES Act we're using the CARES, which we can, to pay for 2 positions. Within 2 years, we're going to have to absorb those positions within our budget. Is it doable? Absolutely. I really believe so. We'll have to see where we are, and budgets are year to year. You look at the staffing, so I think we'll be in a good place from that standpoint. If the state budget comes out with that infrastructure, we'll probably absorb that quickly. That's 2 roofs right there, and hopefully bridge the gap with some other major repairs that we need that will fall in the category. Our money, the CARES Act money, is much different than y'all's. It is so strict, and it goes through the federal application process that we use through the state, and it's penny for penny, and it takes a while to get it approved, and you have to submit it. So, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of money, but fortunately, we don't have a lot of money, so that process is a little easier. But that's, overall, as far as this budget, that's about a bare minimum's budget right there to do that. And, those increases vary, and we should be fine. It's probably not quite enough to get all of that. We'll have to see. There are some variables because we give increases for degrees. When teachers earn degrees, we have some built in for that right now. It could be more, and usually when that happens, it happens every year, we just adjust within the budget. The other thing we'd like to do is increase, the same thing you all are doing, increase the fuel line. I mean, right now, hopefully we'll just limp in this year with these fuel increases, and that's okay, as long as we stay above water. But we need to look at that too. And the other process with over 80% is you have got to keep adding to the employer portion of insurance, because insurance rates will eat up every raise that you give your employees. I mean, it's just the game, the insurance profession, and the insurance, it's just a mechanism. I mean, so we've been able to do that somewhat, and we have some increases in this budget right now, but if a little more comes, and when I'm talking a little more, you're talking 50,000 to 100,000. I can't see a big swing. I mean, the Senate and the House are far apart, but a lot of that money doesn't impact schools. A lot of it's the infrastructure, and there's a lot of bargaining chips out there, so we'll see what happens when they do it. But that's where we are with it, and like I said, it is completely a bare minimum, but it's that's sometimes not a bad thing when you have unknowns, and if it comes back worse, we'll go back as a school board and we'll have to look at some things, and hopefully this will be a pretty good marker for you, what we have right there, what we sent Ms. Chitto.
Start at your command, see if you had any questions.
I think my questions will wait till after the state budget comes
Okay.
out.
You mentioned the 6-year plan, which I know at least 3 of us have a copy of. I don't know, you do? Levi, do you have a copy?
It's on our website about us.
Okay.
It's all there, and everything we've done with the budget, it's basically my evaluation. Everything we've done with the budget flows if you go to our website and hit about us, and then do budget. And it has everything, and it tells you, you know, what our objective was and what we started out, and we're about ready to accomplish all of it.
Well, I was going to ask, I know you updated and visited every year.
Yeah.
When do you anticipate it being updated?
Probably throughout next year, because we'll have
Okay.
a lot finished. The most important thing, all 4 of those goals are foundational goals. They may change on the website, they may change, but they're still going on. We got to protect those 3-year and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. That's where a lot of our specialty positions is going to. We have to get the literacy all through. We have a secondary literacy coach now that helps teachers and helps students, and that's going to fall right into the 8th grade, because once that building's built, we will have our one transitional year having all the pieces of information we need to help those kids, and it'll all be self-contained in one place. Our high school will no longer be crowded because they'll have their own space, and so that, you know, our objectives have done good, and we're going to finish them at the end of next year. And to give you another idea, we have 2 large loans within our budget, and I really believe that's the way to do it. Our bus, which was a 0%, we bought 11 buses 4 years ago. When that runs out, we will work and see what that amount in our budget will buy us. So we'll work, and we'll start that process next year, because when you buy buses, you go and you evaluate your whole fleet, and Sonny Merriman and all of them they'll do it for you. I mean, they have nice software programs, and all that's free. And so we'll bridge the gap here and there with a bus, because they're pretty good. They'll say, hey, you worked with us, we'll give you a nice new bus, a nice used bus that's going to hold out for quite a few years. So that's going to come up in 2 years, and we'll start evaluating that next year. So we'll hopefully get another 10 buses, because the buses will hit you hard. You know that. So that's in the process. The other thing is our technology infrastructure. We'll continue with that. So that'll come off, and we'll see what we need to do. That's not quite as big a loan, but that interest rate was next to nothing, but that's built in our budget. So then when that rolls off, we can regroup and say we need to use it for this technology. So it's kind of self-financing for many, many, many years, and once you roll. So those are 2 fairly big budget items that we have in this budget, self-contained, and that's how it needs to be. And the reason the buses are 6 years, because that's all we could afford. A 6-year loan and, 11 buses to make the budget. And And hopefully that'll continue to work out. As you grow these buses, it'll be fine, as you keep getting new ones.
During the pandemic, I know you had learning from home set up. Now that we're coming out of the pandemic, do you still have that or?
No.
Okay. So
No,
that's gone.
Senate Bill 1303, and we're all self-contained. We'll have a few students that kind of grandfather in that are doing well with Virtual Virginia, but no, that we're all in person.
All right, and what's your, and forgive me, I should already know this, I hadn't got to your part of the request and all. What did you base your school population estimate on for the coming year?
We do it all the time. We do it with the 3-year-old rate. I mean, this is all through the statistics wizards.
Right.
And we look, yeah, and
I know how you do it. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. What number did you settle on?
that is if you look, it's always at the top. And this is a very dangerous number because some school systems will shoot high.
I'm sorry, I don't remember seeing theirs.
It's the first, if you look at the first page of the long sheets.
I don't think I have that. I was
We just did it online. Ms. Chitto says she
okay.
doesn't like paper anymore, and she's
Right,
making all
right.
y'all do electronic.
Could you give me
I
that
can tell you
number?
1641.55.
Okay, 0.55.
Half a job.
That's what the state.
I'm gonna just round it to 42 for my purpose.
Well, they won't give us that extra money, Mr.
they
Booth.
won't.
I appreciate it if you would, but no, and that's based, the state does it too. And you look at their numbers, you look at our numbers. If we're within 5, one way or the other, we're good.
Right.
Now, if we come back next year with these numbers, and like I said, we became efficient, we have absorbed some things to make the budget work, and you have to. But, and our our PTRs are good, and the most important thing is getting support staff to help these teachers, which we have been doing, and if we get a little extra, we'll add another one when the budget comes. But if we get, enough, if we get an influx of students next year, the only issue with that is hiring somebody. Financially, it's not an issue because your ADM goes up. So the money comes from the state.
Right.
It won't come from here, so, and it keeps the budget safe. I mean, you could go and you could say, okay, we'll probably get 1680, but that just, it's scary.
Gambling.
Yeah, it's gambling. And we do it and we use the numbers exactly and compare it to the state. And
It's better to be a little under that number than over it, definitely.
It is, and it's really calculated specifically, and it's worked well last 6 years, and we haven't ran into trouble. Many school divisions have. I sit and talk to you about this, but when you see what other school divisions do and where they run into trouble and they have to go back at the end of the year and say, we can't finish the year, for multiple reasons, and that number's one of them.
And I just have one last question, and have y'all been notified of many retirements for the coming year?
Yeah, we have, and we absorb those, and that goes into the budget. It's a big help. It's a big help, and like I said, other than those, we won't have as many positions because we don't have as many kids, and that's the efficiency of it, because we want to pay the people that are here, and
Right.
and still be able to provide enough support in a classroom for a teacher. And right now, like I said, we need professionals providing that support, behavior specialists and things like that, and we're getting there.
Well, I know, some years is more than others, but you got an average. Are you looking at about an average retirement
yeah.
rate? Okay.
Yeah, it's an average, and usually those people that retire have many, many, many years and get paid many, many, many dollars more than most, so it does help the budget. And that is factored in to this, and that's one reason when you see those negatives over the last 3 years and the zero, we can do that, and that's one of those is you can do, if you're if you like statistics and do those, and when school divisions try to redo their pay scale, there is a formula that you have to use to see where those people are, because you need that.
Right.
You need that back into your budget. But we're normal with that, and even right now, I think we do only have one position. We have a few still advertised, but we filled them. We just want to make sure we filled them early for next year. But we only have one position open that we just got a retirement, and, we'll be filling that. But right now, we're much better on staff than most school divisions are in this state. We truly are.
Well, and also a lot of those go into the pool. You reach out when, I know you've had trouble with getting substitute teachers,
Oh, yeah,
but at least you've got that pool you can go into to.
Absolutely. And we changed that, the board changed it recently where we, especially a substitute teacher that has a teaching degree, we've increased that pay
Right.
and has a certificate. And so we've done all we can to get that, but
Well, and you also have the formula, I guess you still have the formula. If it's a past retired teacher and they come back and work, then it's based to a based somewhat on their
it
previous
is,
salary to a certain extent.
especially if you put them under contract. If they just
Right.
come back as a substitute, that's one thing.
Right.
But if they come back, and usually those are specialty people, speech pathologists,
Right.
something like that. Yeah, we're able to do that. It makes a nice little retirement, and it gives us the best possible person to be around our kids. It's a
Well,
nice thing.
It's somebody that's already they're familiar with the
Yes.
system. Yeah, it's a great pool.
Oh, I tell everyone I'm a retirement. We'll see you in 6 months, the VRS break. You don't have a choice.
They shake their head, but they come in.
They say, and I tell them they got to get their bus driver's license too, their CDL.
Oh, okay, there you go. Oh, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you for coming by, Dr. Wheeler. First off, could you, for our newer members, and talk about your acronyms that you use, SOQ,
Standards of quality,
okay, and PTR,
pupil teacher ratios. How many kids are in each class?
gotcha, and then the ADM.
Average daily membership is what the state goes at, and that's what we report. So, and that's how the state kind of qualifies that. And to give you an idea, going back to SOQ, there was the Great Recession, and nothing has moved on that. The Great Recession put a cap on support staff in 2009 because the state's revenues were down in 2009. That cap has not been removed. There are nice charts that show the revenue the state has gotten
Oh, yeah.
is over 98% increased from that time, and not a dime has went back to the caps
Yep.
that they did and made schools pay for some of those support positions. And that's at the top of every lobbyist that lobbies for public schools to their delegates. It's a hard one to crack right there. But other than that, the SOQs, they list what are required positions based on numbers, and that's from VDOE.
That hasn't changed since then.
No, that hasn't changed, from that, and,
Wow.
yeah, and
So, I don't know, were you going to say something
No,
else?
no,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay. So from the 1641.5 that you're looking at for the, I would assume that's for the 22-23 school
Yes,
year?
yep.
Where are we at now, just off the, do you know how close we are to that?
I got, the memberships every meeting, and now that we have budget meetings too, more than one, I get lost, but it's 1680, but I can tell you real quick from the last budget meeting, our last school board meeting, when we do membership, we
Yeah.
do that every month too. And like I tell them, the board, the numbers are pretty normal and the movement's pretty normal, because you're always going to get most of them influxing this time of year that we get. and the numbers increase, so you got to be a little careful on that.
Right. Had you seen did it come back from our hit with COVID? Did more kids come back?
We've started to get quite a few more.
Good.
Because so that's, 5 here, 10 here. So we've got quite a few more. And Ms. Cromer's working with a lot of homes, especially the younger ones, that just missed some of the pre-K
Right,
experiences,
yeah.
not with us, but just at different learning centers before they come to us. So we have, over a handful of those that we're trying to work at and get in place correctly.
Okay. In the admin line, I noticed that there is hold on, I just went down. I noticed on the administration, attendance, and health that it's increased by $229,722. What, is that just, tell me why that increase, what are we looking, I mean, it's not a lot, by all means. I just wonder what it is that's, because it's not instruction.
No, but it is a normal, it's almost like a placeholder with that
Okay.
money. It kind of goes back to there. There's no new positions.
Gotcha.
There's we don't have any new positions, and we definitely don't have any new positions at the school board office. And but that's just kind of a catch-all for
Gotcha.
some of the expenses
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I was wrong. It's 1698 was the March
Wow.
ADM. And we're going to do it at 1640. So if there is an
Yeah.
influx, we'll be good if that number stays. This will be the hardest year with the ADM. This, without a doubt, this was the hardest year in 35 years.
Right.
Instructionally, I'm just blessed to be in a good place. I still have hair and I still enjoy it every day. But and we're still helping kids. But this will be a funny budget year.
Yeah.
With that ADM.
And on your school foods, when did we go to the service that we utilized? Was that in 2020?
No, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we have yet to go through a normal year with that because
Gotcha.
COVID hit.
Right.
And it doesn't look like USDA is going to continue to provide the universal feeding. What happens with universal feeding is we get paid per meal. Our objective is to get all our kids a free meal, breakfast and lunch every day.
Yeah.
And that does cost us some. But USDA doesn't look like they're going to even extend it through the summer. It looks like it will end at the end of the school year, which is fine. And we'll keep increasing, and we're doing pretty good with that, but next year will be the first normal year with the service.
Okay.
And, they're a great company. They're picking up more and more school divisions because it just allows, and that allowed us to absorb a position. And,
Right.
Mr. Booth does the DOE nutrition stuff because there's a lot of paperwork with that. And that company helps us with that. So
for the 159,824, that's just what you're kind of sort of.
it's what we take in because we're a CEP, Community Engagement Program. We
Right.
don't meet the highest percentage. CEP, you'll get everything free if you're above a certain percentage. So we have to supplement that.
Right.
What has happened for years and years, when I say years and years, what happened for 10 years before we went to this with the cafeteria program? Cafeteria is separate. So you get this much, okay? And every year it goes down, and every year you got to put more back in. So we were at the tipping point where we'd have to put way too much more in. We just kept losing money. And we've got letters from the state saying you're not feeding enough kids breakfast prior. So we don't get those now. And, they calculate that. And the other thing is, we don't have to mess with free and reduced lunch forms.
Right.
And, those are, especially when high school age everywhere in this country, it's hard to get them in. They just fall off. And people have that availability. But now it's going to take a couple years, but we're in fairly good shape there. you know, you're not going to make a lot, we don't want to make a lot, we just want to be able to provide free food.
And on your debt service line, is that what you were talking about with the buses and the monies that are rolling off from your loans?
Some of that, which
Debt
one is
service?
that?
That says debt service, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4 line down on our budget.
663,000.
If it's
Yeah, so
on,
your debt service has decreased by $249,937, so is that part of?
that's
where
your,
that bus-
that's on your side.
That is on our side,
Yeah,
okay.
that's on your side.
So do you have a line that shows where your,
Yeah, it's the, says Mercedes-Benz.
Oh,
We're not
okay.
buying any Mercedes-Benz, but that's where the buses are coming from.
gotcha,
And then I'd have to look at the company for the technology. It's underneath the technology.
Okay.
But that's, the bus line, I think, is about $107,000 a year. That was over $1 million over 6 years, and that was zero interest. So it's a pretty good deal.
and then just a question sort of like Jerry's was in terms of just asking, you had come here about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, and talked about the idea of a full-time sub for each school. Have you given that any more? I thought it was an excellent idea. I just wondered where it was going.
Well, if you do a full-time sub, about 10 years' experience, you go through the average right there for each school, that'd be about $340,000 to $350,000.
So just too costly?
Yeah, and, you know, it's, like I said, getting out of these 2 years and then evaluating after next year, next year's a great year to reevaluate. This year, no, because it's just so abnormal. It's just so hard, but, you know, in that case, and our teachers would probably, would agree that I'd rather buy more and get specialists in the building where they can go in a class, help a teacher, help with the most difficult situations they have, and team teach, you know, through a building. And we're starting to build that up little by little. But, you know, it is a good idea. We'll see what the state budget does. If they give us a whole lot, you know, if they give us an extra 500,000, we'll give some stuff back to you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so
Oh.
much for coming.
I appreciate.
I appreciate you coming, Dr. Wheeler. I was just going to ask you, what is the average starting teacher pay?
If with the 5%, you know, I kind of gauge it on this when we looked at a teacher with a master's, which most of them do, we'll be a little over 47,000. Right now, a couple of counties right around us are 48, so we'll be in good shape after this 5%. Now, this 5% is a biennium, so we'll get 5% again next year. Some of the school divisions around us can't do it because their ask for that is well over $1 million, and they have to go to their board of supervisors to get it. You know, ours isn't. I mean, it's probably half that, but so that's about the starting pay for just a fresh teacher with a bachelor's. Right now, it's 40.
Okay. That's the only question I had. Thank you, sir.
See how much easier this is when one person at a time. So Dr. Wheeler's not jumping all around. And I actually sat here, I had some questions, and Linda asked one of them, and I've got somebody else asked another one of them, so I can just sit here and listen. But the only thing I want to say is I do appreciate the hard work you and the school board both is putting in, because it's been a lot easier on your tenure. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I remember in the past, all the ruckus we had, you know, and it's much easier when everybody gets along and works together. And
Oh, yeah.
I talked to, well, I've got friends in surrounding counties that listen to what their school boards are going through. God, we're blessed. Yes, we are blessed.
I have been told that many times, especially from attorney friends that represent school divisions. And
Yeah,
one that on the other side of the state said, I'll drive down to Floyd every day and drive back just to sit through your nice meetings instead of going to some that I have to, so.
so, you know, it's been really an honor to, work with
Oh,
you.
it's-
Like I say,
Appreciate it.
it sure is different than it used to be, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Well, we're getting to a good point, and we'll get you over there to that collaboration center. There's some really good things, and we're going to work hard on some pretty good skills, night classes for, work with Ladina, but it's coming along beautifully. We had a couple school divisions come look at it, and both of them said, we just can't get our board of supervisors on board. And, they don't have even what we have now, much less computer science, which the state requires. I mean, they don't have those things. We have that now, and we'll keep expanding what we teach within there. So very fortunate for you all, and it'll be a beautiful place up there, and we're trying to get donations, too, to fix the athletic part up and hopefully help out the Parks and Rec. And so we're going to continue to do that.
Common sense tells you it's a lot easier if all the boards can work together.
Yeah.
And Jerry's going through growing pains, so we've got to get back up there to eat lunch.
I'm gonna-
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, but you.
Well, I tell you what, I may get the menu, and, we're down to however many days left, last 9 weeks, so maybe when it's pretty, we'll get you up there. Not on a day like this.
Staff have any questions, or?
No, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you all, and, when this comes through and we get it, Mr. Booth and I, and right now, this is the draft approved. If it prolongs, like we did in the past, the only timeline we have is we got to get contracts out. And right now, we're basically fully staffed, so the sooner we can get contracts out. Once again, it's hard budget year, so we'll talk about that if this thing goes on for a long time and see what we need to do. I'd like to say that what you got now is what it's going to be from you all, period. We'd like to be able to say that so you have a concrete number, but we just have to wait and see. And I'll get with Dr. Millsaps on timelines for contracts, and we'll see how long before we get a state budget.
If I
I'm
might,
sorry, I do have one question. How are y'all figuring y'all's fuel costs, for your buses and stuff? Are y'all adding a certain percentage to it, or?
We added, and you look in the lines, we added some for next year. We added it because of the new heating system. We added it the last 2 years too, which has helped some, just to make sure going from fuel to propane. So we've added some, but it is a monetary amount that we look at based on the increase from month to month, what we see. And so we do the budget monthly, so we see where it is, especially this time of year. But it is a percentage, and then we look and see what we have monetarily. I mean,
So if you've been doing that, does that mean that, I guess that's to the end of the cycle, so you probably, since the fuel cost hadn't really kind of shown at its highest height yet, correct?
no, we'll get it for next month. Well, yes, it hadn't, there's heat running in that now.
Right,
Right now, we're okay. You're talking about electric too,
yeah, that's what I'm.
because of the AC.
Yeah, so.
It's not quite yet. And I look for all the freebies I can get. We're going to have, Train has done all the work.
Yeah.
And they have, and you all may have done this before too. Another group that works with Train, they're going to come in and do a free study on lighting and energy efficiency.
Excellent.
To see and look at our bills. It's hard right now with the bills, and I've talked to them, but we're going to get them in. I don't want any more people in our building now while kids are in there. We're going to get them in June, and a lot of it is LED lighting. This is, it's basically a contract-based. I don't know if it's for us, but at least it gives us an idea. Here's what you can do to improve your costs, utility costs. So we'll do that. right now, we haven't, we won't know till next year, really. I mean, but the fuel cost should be, as far as coal, the heat cost, we're right at it. The little bit we put in so far has made the difference up between coal costing less and what the propane cost is. I mean, coal doesn't fluctuate like propane does, but I'm gonna tell you what, those buildings are clean. Holy cow.
And the vehicles and everything.
Yeah, around the buildings, yeah, that coal dust is, yeah, but yeah, we, like you all, we'll keep looking at them. I mean, the county gets their fuel from our place up there, and we'll just keep looking and work together on that, see what we gotta do.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see y'all, you have fun all day, okay?
Yeah.
Chris, can I bother Chris
That was
before we jump?
Sorry, Kim had.
Yeah, I
sure you
guess.
wanted to-
You know, I just want to just make one mention and thank and give, props to Darren.
Oh, yeah.
He's, been wonderful to work with, building that relationship, and he's been a great support.
Yeah.
So I just did not want that to go without saying.
I will tell him, he's probably watching,
Please.
so.
Thank you.
Thank
ya.
sir.
Chris, could I bother you just a
So
second
Kim, is the school budget in our file?
before we move to the next
Is
one?
his school budget in our,
The only thing
How do I get my
that we've
screen to
received
stay
is this,
on
which
long?
is
Okay.
the
What it
exact
does?
numbers that
Go
reflect
to
on here.
settings.
gotcha.
And it was
Settings,
set
and
this way
then
because they
it
don't-
should
they
be
didn't
Screen
intend to
time.
display and
Right.
brightness
And then the
here.
only reflection that we have is what they send over on
Let's see,
their.
auto walk, let's set this to
Monthly,
15
which
minutes.
Thank
As
you.
long as you're toying with it every 15 minutes.
Thank
All right.
you.
That will drain your battery if you look away from it though, so,
That's all right.
yeah.
That's all
Their
right.
budget is online,
yeah,
so I doubt.
You wouldn't have to touch go black, you just
I
touch
just touch
it.
that, touch the screen, yeah.
I just did
I
that.
gotta have, see, I got one of these
No,
at
I
the
know it
house, a
is. I
big
just-
computer, and
normally
it's
we
got
have
a
it,
finger
they
thing,
send it.
Right.
so I'm used to
Should be in
it, so.
Okay.
Mr. Turbot, would it be all right if we took just a couple-minute break before we have Kevin come in?
That
We're gonna
would be
need-
fantastic.
We're gonna need
All right.
Let's go ahead and get back to our budget work session then. So we will,
Mr. Chair, as I mentioned earlier, another area that there's been some kind of significant changes and increase has been in Kevin's budget. And so I asked him to join us now to talk through some of what those things are and also give a little background. Many of these things are requirements that are coming from the Commonwealth and may not be familiar to folks that don't follow 911 kind of stuff every day, so.
And
with-
will we be starting with emergency medical services?
Start where you wish.
so-
All right, which page is that on?
32,
32, thank you.
you're welcome. In our hymnal. Page 32.
I'm gonna do my own little cheat sheet up here so I know what page is what's on.
You guys are doing great, though. It's very, very impressive.
Surprised you, huh?
I didn't say that. So, Sherry, would you like Kevin to go ahead and
Go
start
ahead.
looking?
Yeah.
Whatever you'd like.
Much. I mean, if you,
Well, are you talking about EMS, their budget, or, okay.
Wherever you're comfortable to start
Yeah.
with, you just tell us.
32 or 24.
Or if you want to start with emergency management.
Well, we
If
can
that's all
start,
right, Mr.
we
Chair.
can start with EMS. Looks like to me, you know, we were trying to start a different type of scheduling and different hours to offset some of the overtime. And went to 24-hour shifts, and at the time we needed three more personnel to make it work. Now we're at about 5 because we've lost some personnel because they either went to part-time because of they couldn't work the 24. It was conflict with family duties and whatnot. But the goal is to eliminate comp time and overtime. You know, what we're paying out in those, we could be paying in salaries. Easily. You guys got any questions about any of the budget items?
We'll start with Levi this time, come down. Put him on the spot right off the bat.
I don't think so right now, not just from what I can look over here right now.
Okay, think of
Go ahead.
something, just let us know.
Yeah.
So I had noticed that there have been some reductions, which was pleasantly surprising. Maintenance and service contracts went down 1,000. What was the other thing? There's something else that I saw. But training goes up. And I guess what you're talking about is the increase in the salary are to try and get everybody staffed. But in the end, you're saying it's kind of a wash because of all that extra.
Yes, we expected we'd lose a couple, but we've lost more than what we expected over it. And also, we're competing against Montgomery,
Right.
which is starting
Now, yeah.
which is starting their EMS service. Roanoke, they used a lot of ARPA money to raise salaries for those folks, but I don't really know what they're going to do after 2 years. So,
Yeah. I will say, and this might have been in board time Tuesday, but it actually fits better here. One of the things that we've discussed at the Regional Commission that was brought up by Mayor Horton of Radford was, we're all, Radford's been on a paid EMS for years. But what he said was, if we all don't try to come together, if we all don't try and get a salary structure that works for all of us, then everybody's going to be in a bad way. So basically, we all kind of instructed Kevin to get together, Kevin Bird to get together and sit down and try and work something out. So you may get a call
That's awesome.
from someone, because we're all going to be facing this problem.
Yeah.
And it just seems to, why should we compete with each other when this is keeping our citizens healthy and safe?
Yeah,
So,
it's a bidding war right now, and, Floyd's a small community,
Right.
and we can only afford to do
so much.
so much, and, we're losing, we've got some advantages, we're just EMS, not fire and EMS. The call rates are not as high as, say, Roanoke, Christiansburg
Even-
area.
yeah, Blacksburg,
It's
right.
got its benefits.
Right. Anyway, I just thought I'd pass that along. And that's about it for right now. We'll notice the fuel cost line was a considerable jump, but, I don't think we can, to underestimate would not be good. I'd rather have more left over at the end of the year
Yeah.
than not have enough.
For everything that's going on,
Yeah.
I've heard 8-9% increase. It's probably been more than that already, but
You heard me. I noticed on the Lucas 3 CPR chest compression, we bought that one in the past budget. Was it one or two that we purchased? It was just one, wasn't it?
we've got 2, one for each truck.
Okay. I was-
I don't have that actual budget that you guys are looking at,
Well,
so.
that's all right. It was 14,900, but the one we bought last year was one so we had one in each truck. Is
Right.
that correct?
Right,
And we're covered now.
right.
Do you happen to recall what the life of that? I can't recall, but
It's,
I wonder.
unless it's something, it gets damaged some way, it should last for a very long time.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I just, since we weren't putting anything there, I just wanted to make sure we were covered on that.
Yeah, we're covered.
And on that Laryngoscope Kit 3, which we had last year too, that is those kits, how often do you have to replace them, or is it?
It would be the same thing.
Same
It's,
thing,
it's wear and tear. I'd hate to think that you would, on that scope, you would have a lot of wear and tear on it.
Well, I know,
But,
well, as they come out with new stuff, you
Yeah.
have to upgrade.
True
That's
that.
why I was, I just wanted to make sure we were covered in those two areas.
yeah, I noticed there was some, requests for some training materials, and, let's see. Which they're starting to do a lot of in-house training.
Okay.
They've got some really good folks down there working right now, and we'll try to take advantage of it.
You probably aware of what these Lucas are. You know what this Lucas chest compressor thing is? I know that thing fascinated me,
Yeah.
Well, it's actually another set of hands,
Basically, it is, yeah.
and it saves us what little, well, they're expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than hiring a third person on a truck.
Well, and for what those two do, they're not, I don't consider them expensive.
True that.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's a saving a life right there.
especially on the compression, I would, not that I'm advocating the companies to raise their prices, I'm not doing that, but I'm just surprised, I'm sorry. That's all I
Yeah,
have.
I don't have any questions with this budget. I think everything is very reasonable. Are there any things that you didn't request that you would like to have?
Not at this time, but I'll do some digging. No, we knew the budget was going to be pretty close, so we tried to stick.
So this is taking care
Yeah.
of your needs, okay?
Only thing There was a quote for an ambulance, and the equipment committee probably needs to make that suggestion or recommendation. And we'll do that soon.
Okay. I was gonna ask if, when we was gonna do that again. So,
Yeah, I mean, we got 2 new units last year,
Yeah.
and I don't foresee us needing another new one this year.
Just to jump off of Kalinda's comment, is there anything, as you all have been working through our next drop in funding from our infrastructure grants? Obviously EMS and such are an important part of that. Are you looking at anything for emergency services, or?
So if I might, I assume you're speaking about the ARPA money?
Yes, about
Okay.
the ARPA money.
Okay. So for the ARPA money, as you recall, right now you have a placeholder in there for
Yeah,
2 rounds of funding for EMS.
right.
But at the time, you all did that, which was the previous, it was back in the fall, the previous board. The instruction was to not use that until they had used up everything they had.
Right.
So that's why it's not currently built into the budget, but it's kind of there for safekeeping
Placeholder.
as a placeholder. And also, of course, we would have to come ask you about it, but potentially leaves us a little latitude if we need to make some other
Yeah,
adjustments.
just wanted to make
So
sure that-
appreciate
yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not, to Kevin's earlier point, they did a really good job of building a budget that doesn't, at this point, necessarily require ARPA funding, but given the uncertainties about, as Kevin mentioned, Montgomery and Roanoke and what impact that'll have, it's very nice to have that cushion there. So thank
Okay.
you all for that.
Yeah.
I would like to add, Linda has been working on maybe a vocational venture. I'm not sure, we've all been pretty busy with budgets and everything else, but I see that being a need.
Yeah.
And it could pay dividends. It may take 2 or 3 years, but
Yep.
we're going to have to change something up because nobody wants to do that job anymore. And it's so much training involved. You might as well be an RN because you're just about there. That's all on EMS.
the earlier you get started on them kids, the better.
Yeah. Just have to make a phone to do it.
Hey, Kevin, does these new people that we hire and stuff, is there a contract they sign, or they don't have a contract that they sign or anything? Like, so if we train them or
It's an interesting idea.
pay for training and all of that?
If we start, well, my recommendation.
I got mixed feelings about it,
My
but
recommendations
I can see points in it.
would be if we start a program in vocational, we offer X, Y, Z as far as college, and with the certain terms applied to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we,
Definitely. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So if I might follow up a little bit more with your question. So in terms of an employment contract, I'm the only employee that has an employment contract. But I think maybe what you're talking about is slightly different than that, right? Which
Yeah, we
is an
would-
agreement almost.
an agreement, we
Yeah.
past profession, we'd send you to training, get you all certified, and so you didn't, once you get certified, you're basically a free agent. Then you just go to whoever's got the best packages. So we would hold them to the fire a little bit for 2 or 3 years, and if they left during that time period, they'd be responsible for
Paying it back.
paying it back or something. But generally, we didn't ever run into that problem. But there was always mixed feelings on that too, because, if you're really here for a year and a half and you just don't want to be here anymore, do we really want you here?
Right.
There
Right.
was some mixed feelings.
I agree, Floyd was
Which way
a
it
training
goes.
facility for
Oh,
a
it's
long
just-
time,
it was a training
especially
ground.
law
Yeah.
enforcement.
There was one thing we changed that helped too a bit, when they got on with their EMT training. You know, like they couldn't run a truck, 18 months or something like that? So we cut that, moved that back, because that was ridiculous. Somebody take a training and then sit on their hands for that long, especially when you can go across the line and they'll grab you up in a heartbeat, So we changed that and that's helped.
Well, I know, they used to, the volunteers had an agreement that, you worked certain many hours or whatever for a certain length of time. And if you didn't do that, then you repay whatever cost of training.
Yeah. Well,
And I don't know if, that might be something for Steve to look into, how we could,
Put a hook in it.
yeah, with a little bit of a barb, not completely stick one. But, I think it's something worth looking into.
yeah.
I do too.
And you brought up volunteers. They've really, they've been stepping it up here of late,
Yeah.
helping us out when we're short-staffed.
Very grateful for their help.
Yeah, we need to let them know that we appreciate their due diligence.
Yeah.
Next.
Y'all want to get in, let's find the mud. E911.
I don't know, I'm gonna have
Down
to,
here.
Is that 24?
No, it's down on 37.
I was getting there. There it is.
37.
Yeah.
There's,
Now we will have to pray.
yes, get those tissues ready. E911 budget, I guess the main thing on that is, right now the state usually funds all the software and hardware every 5 years that runs dispatch, and it's a lot of it. They've pulled that funding because they're wanting to fund NG 911, which we're ready for, but we can't flip a switch until we get the price for citizens realistic. And I think I talked to y'all in the budget session about that. There's a $60,000 for equipment software replacement. I will apply for a grant, and that'll cover most of that instead of the regular 10. But you've got to front the money first, so that's why I put it in there. Communication system, that's for federal engineering or consultants. And just so y'all know, we notified the two vendors by email that we was going to start the negotiation phase of that. And hopefully we can do that in quick order. If you guys have any questions about that, feel free to come see me. But we can't talk a lot about it in open forum, so.
Kevin, would you, if I might, Mr. Chair, help people understand a little bit about the NG 911 and
Yes.
that kind of,
yes.
I'm not sure everyone has a lot of background.
You
on
know,
all
it
that.
started out 911. It was E911. Now we're NG 911. And that's next generation. It's basically going from landline phones to primarily focusing on cell phones. Instead of information being, your address, some of that stuff's still going to populate, but it's more focused on lat and long now. And it's been a pretty heavy process as far as making sure our data's right. We had to get with each county and discuss boundaries, not necessarily It's a E911 boundary, not,
Right.
and basically, if you're standing here and you call, it'll go to this piece, or dispatch center. If you're standing here, on the other side of the line, it knows where to go. There's no, dispatchers usually had to transfer calls and stuff when it was on the line, because it may be another county. That should be gone, so it'd be less work for dispatchers.
Really?
Everything is installed in dispatch. It's, AT&T got the state bid to do NG 911. And between the cost, our cost went from $300 per trunk line to $3,000 for trunk lines. So that's what we pay a month, or, no, that's a year, I'm sorry. No, yeah, a year. And Citizens was looking at it having to pay, I think it started out at $8,000, now it's about $6,000. And if you do the math, it's almost $1,000 per citizen.
Yeah.
It's a little, that's why we're kind of holding off on it. We're, Melissa Parsons with VDM, she's putting a lot of pressure on these, on the AT&T folks to come up with a better solution. So that's what we're waiting on. Even though we're not part of the telco, we are part of the telco. I don't want to see local businesses suffer.
Yeah.
And then, if I might, Kevin and Mr. Chair, also if you could, because the sheriff will be coming next week, maybe help them understand a little bit more about the upcoming medical training requirements for the dispatch folks, just to give them a little context, if that's
Okay.
all right, to.
EMD is emergency medical dispatch, and it's been around for quite a while. The reason Floyd has not went ahead and done it is because, there's a formula you can use, and it comes up with how many people is necessary to make this operate. And it takes 2 people there 24/7. And right now, there's times where there's only 1 dispatcher in there. So we're going to have to hire a few folks to balance that out. It will help us as far as being able to prioritize calls, as in, right now, first come, first serve. But if, and this is exaggerating it, but it does happen from time to time, a toothache call versus a heart attack, you're going to turn that unit around
Right.
and run a heart attack. Right now, it's first come, first serve, and it's aggravating sometimes. But that's where that software comes in there, at about $50,000. But like I say, that's covered. But they don't fund people, but we have to do it. I think it's at the end of '23 that it has to be implemented, and I don't think our dispatchers are going to like it to start with, but I've talked with Twin County, and after they save 1 life, everybody will be on board. But they'll have to see fruits from their labor, and Citizens are going to have to be used to a different scenario when they call E911. They're going to try to send trucks first, get them en route. Then they're going to have to answer several questions, but it could save somebody's life and have the crews more informed when they get there.
May I? Has EMD training started yet for your dispatchers?
No, ma'am. We'll kind of roll that in. It'll be part of that $50,000, the training part. It's basically like a flip chart.
Right,
or-
I'm familiar with EMD.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
But I think it's going. Well, I know it's going to be a good thing. It's just,
It's a painful curve.
yeah. And, anywho, sorry.
No.
Got distracted there.
Can you clarify what you meant by the county lines and stuff? I mean, or let me see if I understand. So right now, when I called for my mom, Floyd did come, Reiner did not.
Right.
But if we were living on the Bobbitt's driveway, Reiner would have come with this new system?
I would have to look at it, but
Well, we're right on the
previously,
line.
you put two county maps up against each other,
Right,
like these.
up top in the blue where the V is, that's where we are.
Well, like these lines right here.
Right.
On our map.
Yeah.
If you put Montgomery's right here,
Yeah,
the lines go like this because they don't match. We
Right.
had to agree on one definite line.
okay, so you did.
One definite line. It don't change who pays taxes where.
Mhm.
It just, it just.
And where is that map available to look at?
I can let you have access to it. It's on a system called Merge,
I'd just like to look at it.
and it's from Lee County all the way, I think it stopped at Floyd.
Really?
Yeah.
Basically, interesting.
But and there's still, Roanoke and some of them still have not agreed on some of the lines with some of their adjoining counties.
Imagine that.
Is that us too?
I just got an email this week from Franklin County wanting to discuss some things, and I was like, well, I thought we already done that, but we'll see what that's about.
Well, I know there was a call where they asked for mutual aid just recently over there in Laurel.
Unless we've had more mutual aid
Well,
calls in the
Forest.
last month. than
Yes, we
had for
have.
I don't know how long.
Exactly.
Yep. Yep,
Yep.
and usually it's the other way around, so
Yeah.
we just gotta pay our part
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Any other grants? I mean, I know you're a dog after a bone, I know that, and that's no offense to it.
If,
To you
to
or
a
the
dog,
dog.
yes. If there's money available, I do pursue it,
And you find it, I know you do.
but right now, I'm very limited on funding. It's whatever
Okay.
the biggest disaster is of the hour is where they're putting funding.
Right.
And so
Right.
far for the last 2 years, it's been COVID. And let's get away from that, please.
I was gonna ask about, he answered it. I was gonna ask about if the funding had started loosening up and spreading back out, but it hasn't yet.
Not yet. I look for it
I know
to start changing this year. We got another variant coming. We'll see what it produces, but so far, I guess it's in Europe.
Yeah, it's BA3.
Mhm. And usually we're a couple months behind them, or that's been the trend. But we'll deal with it again.
Yeah, at
Ask up.
least it's happening in the summer.
Next.
Oh, my budget.
Tighten this ship up here. So.
Emergency services coordinator.
Oh, yeah.
Only thing that's on there is we're going to repurpose a unit that we took out of service. Had about 160,000 miles on it, but if you'll look up on the hill, there's a big trailer. Our plans are to repurpose that trailer after we're done with the storage part of it. Right now, it was cheaper for us to buy a trailer than it was to rent space to store all the PPE.
Right.
And once we get past all that, there's several things it could be used for. There's a couple of law enforcement up there that probably could understand what that trailer could be used for. As a kind of like a response trailer or command center, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
We're trying to make the most out of the money we're getting.
There you go.
Yeah.
Name of the game.
Okay, folks, what? what can we tear apart on this one?
Yes.
Not much, I don't believe. I didn't
So
change.
far, you've been easy on us. I feel like the shoe's gonna drop here in a minute, so.
No,
No,
I'm,
this is your last one, right? This is the
yeah,
last.
that's it. I was very easy on you guys.
We
Please be
appreciate
easy
that.
on me.
Appreciate that.
I noticed as far as turnout gear, we haven't spent any for a while. Is that, or as
That
far?
was him.
That was me.
I know it was you, but I say, are you okay as far as
Oh,
your
yeah,
turnout
yeah.
gear and that?
Yeah, I try not to put that stuff on no more than I have to.
Oh, well. I know with some of it too, it needs to be upgraded
Yeah,
from time
no,
to time, but.
no, I'm good. Only reason we had to update before was,
He's 30 years old, right?
well,
Might have been older.
I've kind of ate one of myself since I quit smoking.
Oh. Does the new ones have an elastic in them?
They don't furnish elastic, but I bought them a little upsized.
No,
Funny how it creeps up on you.
yeah. Well, I just wondered, because it had been a while since I knew we had bought that, but,
Yeah, no, it's good shape.
okay.
If y'all can leave my budget the way it is, that would be very appreciative. Unless y'all want me to spend some money, but I don't
Well-
think you guys do.
Actually, I'm gonna ask that. What is the shape of your vehicle? Like, what is,
Square.
I mean, what shape is your vehicle in? I mean, how
I
many
don't-
miles is on it?
It's got 79,000.
Oh, okay,
It's not.
okay.
Oh, don't worry, I'll ask.
I'm sure you will.
I'm
I
not
mean,
bashful.
but I'd rather know 2 years ahead of time.
Yeah. No, we in good shape.
Okay.
We in good shape.
No upgrading inside, no new equipment, radio, anything like that?
Well,
I mean,
with-
I know I see you got,
With this new radio system coming, that should be taken care of.
okay?
The radio in it is pretty well whacked, but I'm just keeping it in there till,
Right,
ain't no use to buy something twice.
right. Okay.
Now, what can I do for you guys?
Just keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Yep.
No problem.
Keep the pedal to the metal.
And I would like to say, this goes to the new board members, and we have a lot of new people, and a lot of people are putting in a lot of hours. And, especially Kimchi, Linda, I don't know this guy, but, I think y'all have done a great job. It's not easy coming into this, and we do have a lot of new faces, and sometimes things don't go the way it used to go, but people just gonna have to give you guys a break and know that change takes time. No problem. All right, that's enough for that. Got a job for another 12 months.
Thanks, Kevin.
Only one Kevin Cyrus.
That's right.
All right, where do we go from here, Dr. Millsap?
Well, if I might, these are your, those were the only two folks we had lined up for today. And as I mentioned, the sheriff is planning to be on deck to be here on Tuesday. I told him you were meeting at 8:30.
Okay, so he'll be right off the bat.
It'd be easier on him if he can get in here early.
Yeah,
So,
sure would.
Yeah. And then, let's see, take this down.
that is, if his men ain't stirred up something not before.
Yeah.
And I just sent them, I was just looking for an answer here real quick from Mark and Ladina, but I was thinking if you wanted the two of them to come Tuesday as well, then that would cover all of the, kind of the folks that report in to me and the sheriff and the schools by
Yeah, I think
the
that-
end of the meeting on
Yeah.
Tuesday. And then if there are other folks, if you want to talk to other constitutional officers, other outside folks, of course, I'd be happy to drop them a note, give them a call and say you'd want to talk to them. But that was kind of where I thought we would start and then.
Well, that's
all
the
about.
biggest ones right there anyway, is I
So,
know in years past, some of the smaller budgets, we've been able to call them on the phone
oh,
during the
okay.
meeting
Yeah,
and clarify, and that's where we move on.
yeah, that would be great. That'd be great. So beyond that, I guess, Sherry, Mr. Booth had suggested we kind of run through the document and see
Back to page 14.
if you have questions and,
That seems to work good for us in years past, and
sure.
it gives us, by the time we get to the end of it, it gives us sort of a sense which way we're gonna have to go. And,
Sure. So if that's where you'd like us to go, and since, if you
Let
don't
me ask
mind,
this right
Kim
quick.
on the spot.
We didn't set an end time on these. Normally, we go to about 11:30, and I know Levi's got a appointment this evening, and I don't know about anybody else. Other than my cows, they can wait. So,
Tuesdays are my busy day.
okay.
So it sounds like your target is 11:30 to wrap it up?
11:30, 12, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because usually, I know my old brain gets sort of fuddled after I've been in here for a few hours like that.
Mine's only slightly younger, and the same thing happens to me. I understand. I understand. I think Kim had to deal with a family matter real quick, so I can do my best to start us out, and we can go from there. So if you go to the very beginning, I guess the first thing is you all's budget, which is, of course, the only change there is just, well, actually, it's exactly the same, but basically, your insurance. So other than that, I'll let you all figure how much you want to put in or suggest to put in for travel, mileage, and all that other kind of stuff.
I mean, did you have any suggestions? I mean, I know we would see it in your suggestions, but you did leave that blank and.
Yeah. So I know that you all have, in the past, made decisions about only reimbursing a portion of training and travel for you all. And of course, that's obviously you all's decision. I would note in other jurisdictions, that is not the case, that, if you travel to, say, the VAC or legislative day, or if you go to a training, that often mileage, meals, and room are covered and registration. So I just wanted to bring that back up to you all, but that's, you all's choice how you want to handle that, obviously, but this is the first place I've been that the whole thing doesn't get reimbursed or reimbursed up to a certain amount per person, or, so going to X, 1, 2, whatever, a year. So that's the only thing I think I would put on the table for a
I was
discussion.
just going to ask if, of course, some of the members may know if VACO's ever going to start going back to Covington for their meetings in the fall.
If they're gonna start going back to
That is-
Homestead, yeah,
Homestead,
yeah.
you might have more, Mr. Booth.
Due to their renovations, this November is still in Norfolk. I know it's gonna be in Richmond,
Right.
excuse me. And then I'm anticipating that Homestead will have their renovations done and it'll go back to
Correct.
Bath County in '24.
That's what I'm hearing.
The reason we cut that, we were going through that budget, and it was a tough budget. It was pretty
It was.
tough. And we were cutting stuff in everybody else's, and we decided to cut that in ours. I'm not above going back to it. Now, I don't know that we ever, for us, I think what we did, I don't think we covered meals, but we covered the hotel room and the mileage.
Right,
And if there was a conference fee.
right.
I'm not above going back to that if we feel like we need to at the start of the new year. That's,
I remember we used to do lodging, mileage, and one meal.
was it
The
one
main
meal?
meal.
Okay.
Yep.
And eventually we cut that one off, you know. But, you know, we always paid for the main meal, whichever that was for the,
Yeah,
whoever
the
went.
big,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
like the
Like
big,
if dinner was the
reception meal.
biggest, that's what we paid for, or if
right.
lunch was the biggest, that's what we paid for.
Yep.
I'm like Jerry, it wouldn't bother me to put it back in, I don't travel, you know what I'm saying? But I don't wanna hold anybody else up.
Well, and most of mine, other than the one big one at the end of the year, since I said as board of director of ACO, they cover mine.
Right.
At everything else, they won't cover the end of the year one, because that's the biggie.
Right.
But-
I have no problem putting it back in. I usually, I don't know why, I guess I drive so much and I just never have taken I've never taken mileage. It's just, we drive everywhere. I mean, we're just always on the go. But yeah, I mean, I think we could put it back in and leave it as a placeholder, and then as we come back through, if we have to, I would hate to not have somebody go because they felt like that would be a hardship. So, because I think these events we do go to, these are not, we participate in them, we learn from them. They're important, and I think it's important to get it's that networking too
Well,
that goes on.
And well, you touched on it, the presentations are usually very informative,
Yeah.
but I get a lot more when I'm on break in the hallway talking to somebody from another county, and, and I find out they're going through the same thing
Right.
we are. Usually their numbers are higher than ours, but we're going through the same thing, and pick up ideas on how they're handling it, or they're asking us how we handle it. And sometimes you'll get more in the hallway than you do at the conference. I
Absolutely.
know that sounds bad, but,
We
But I
know
think that's part of it.
in the past, going to Bath County up Homestead, like you said, them breakout sessions, you got to go to whichever one you wanted. But then afterwards, strike up a conversation or something. You make a lot of friends up there, and, you talk to them, and theirs may be on a bigger scale, but you can tone it down a little bit, And, but I know Terry, like, every now and then my wife would go with me up there. What we did, we just traded off my mileage for her.
it worked out about the same.
Yeah, and, so, we got a free trip. She could do her thing, I could do mine, I said, but,
What's the current standard? Me and Calinda's only did that one trip, but what are we currently?
Currently,
Mileage?
mileage
The conference?
and the conference fee.
Okay.
Right.
That's right, because our lodging and our meals was just.
Yeah, and it used to be that you'd get mileage, one meal, and the fee as well as your room. And then you would pay your other meals.
Right.
And there for a while, I didn't keep the receipts. I didn't realize we were paying the conference fees, so I
Right,
paid them
right, right, right.
myself.
I
And
just
that's
think,
all right, that's cool. It's just, I know in talking with some citizens that have asked about that particular thing, I know they relayed to me that they thought we should be paying for that because it's part of the job. But,
Paying forward.
no, I'm talking about the county paying for it.
right,
Oh,
right,
okay.
right.
Yeah, and, not to get us off topic, I would recommend anybody that can get on one of those VACO committees do so, because the more representation we have at these meetings, the better it is for us. I know I'm on transportation, of
I'm on
course,
governmental.
and I sit on, now, Lauren was on agriculture, I think. It seemed to me like he was on another one maybe. but-
Agriculture and, I don't know, you have to put in and then they appoint you. But yeah,
Which
you know,
if you put in, unless you made somebody mad, hey,
yeah.
They take what they can get.
Yeah.
yes, sir,
Yeah.
they'll take every name they can get if they have to
Yeah.
expand the committees. But,
You know, that was another good thing about going up there. You may have a state representative come in there to give a speech, and you could go in there and pin his ears back if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might have been done a time or two.
Right.
It's, you know, once or twice. but,
Once or twice.
Yeah. That's a good thing too. You can go straight to the horse's mouth,
Yep.
as the old saying goes.
Let's see.
So what will we put
Well,
back,
in-
200, 2,000?
Well, that's what I was thinking. In 20, when was the last time we did it, and we had 1,500, given price increases,
Right, maybe
maybe
2?
two.
Yeah.
That works. 2,000 sounds
that-
reasonable.
I
Yeah,
think
because
that's
in
reasonable.
20, we had
Because
4,000, yeah.
Because you've got it, between it and the next line, that's a total of 4,000 there.
But I don't know if we shouldn't put 1,000 back in on the travel, meals, and lodging as well, because that had been at 4. And it went down, so maybe up that by 1,000? And then the other by, what did you say, 2 or 15?
I was thinking 2 on the travel mileage, because that's directly, that's where your gas price increases is gonna hit
What are they doing on that now, 50 something?
55 cents.
55
something, yeah.
I don't know if the IRS will, because we base it on the IRS, so. I thought it was 55, yeah.
Well, I don't know where it's at, but I haven't heard any of them talk about raising it either.
Now,
Well, it's like when I go to Whiffle, they pay for that one, if I remember to fill the form out for at least. But, yeah, and when I was going to Blacksburg was the only one where I really got a lot of mileage. And sometimes I did and sometimes I didn't.
Just for, as of January 1st, 22, it's 58.5 cents.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Wow.
See, I don't do that for the regional commission, and I don't do that for
Yeah, I didn't
any.
know how that worked.
I
I
just-
just drove there.
I mean, half the time
I was
I'm,
already
25.
in Draper.
exactly, I
Or
already
something else,
try to, yeah.
Since it's
That's what I
went
try to
up
do.
on the payout,
Exactly what I try to
2,500.
do.
Barron
So,
Springs is actually
For
right there.
If I can
for
get-
mileage or?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
They got-
travel mileage.
They got
And
money
remember,
for
I
meals and
can,
lodging, but
if
That's-
the description of the expenditure line item, if you would like it to be more descript, so like for travel mileage, and then you have, the next one says travel, meals, and lodging, you know, I can make that one line just mileage. You know,
Yeah,
so
that
it's
makes
real
sense.
clean and clear.
Yeah, that's
That
what
is
it's
helpful,
for,
And that's
yeah.
what it's for.
I think-
I can do that as well.
I think that would make it clearer.
Yeah, I think, so you're still, I think 1,500 there, and then maybe up the other one back to either 4 or 3,500. That's my thoughts. I don't know that we need, I don't know.
Do you know anything coming up this year that y'all have had a heads up on or anything? Or if Jerry knows of anything?
Just November.
Vacos.
Are we doing the August ones, Jerry?
Yeah, we'll have our August, the monthly VACO board meetings in June.
Right.
And, but like I said, on my part, they take care of all that, so.
Right.
Well,
Oh.
I'm sorry. The other thing you might want to consider is potentially, at least some of you going to the VACO meeting that's during the legislative session. That is something that a lot of other jurisdictions do.
Yeah, I've gone to that.
Yeah,
And it works, it works out pretty well to.
But that's in February.
yeah.
Yes, so
Which
that
would
would
be in the
be
next
something when you're
budget.
thinking about how much, because you guys have not really been going. You might want to think about, I will tell you just, so you're aware, apparently this year Pulaski took 20 people. And that might be a little overkill for Floyd, but nonetheless, it does suggest that other communities also think that it's worthwhile to spend the money to have folks go and meet with not only legislators, but also, during that time, a lot of the cabinet agencies are available for meetings and that kind of thing, so you could potentially try to schedule
With the
something.
pandemic, I chose not to go.
Yeah, same here.
But now that it's pretty much over, I will be planning to go to the next one.
So the combination of being able to, learn some things and make connections, but also be able to kind of advocate for Floyd and Southwest Virginia might be helpful. So as you think about what number you at least want to start with, I have the advantage, I guess, of having recently come from a place that it was an hour drive to Richmond, so.
Right.
And candidly, it was very effective for us to be able to go down. So having at least some connections in addition to y'all's relationship with your state elected officials might be helpful.
So what y'all want to add? With that in mind.
I'm
How much
thinking,
cost will be associated with doing that?
well, what we don't
Or to
use,
go
we,
on.
huh?
I mean, to go into that,
Usually is that the 2-day one?
Yeah,
Usually 2 hotel nights.
Yeah, so it'd be 2 hotel nights and all costs associated with that.
right.
And believe me, there's a lot, I guess y'all figured out. That you can get a great rate on the room per night. It's all them extras they throw on there that drives it up.
Yeah,
If you would like, we can kind of look at, I assume, it's in Richmond, and kind of see what the.
well, both of them are gonna be,
Yeah.
the conference in November.
Yeah, and that'll be, okay. So maybe we can just look at per person, how much it might cost to go to Vacor, and to, I guess, Homestead.
Or,
Mileage
well, it'll be
wise
in
and rooms.
Richmond.
It'll be in Richmond.
It'll be in Richmond,
This
both
year.
will be, so both will be in Richmond.
Yeah,
Right.
this year.
Okay, so we can figure out mileage to, reimbursement to Richmond and what a reasonable hotel room might
Right.
be. And bring that back to
Well,
you on
they
Tuesday.
usually stay at the one where all the conferences are, and,
Right,
So-
right, yeah, that's usually,
yeah.
what, 100, that's close to 200
Yeah.
a night, I think, that particular one.
Yeah,
Stayed there.
Well, the one in Norfolk, at the time all the extras was over 300 a night.
Yeah,
Including parking.
Yeah, everything.
That's
You know,
true.
like
Yeah.
I said, it was something like 168 for the room, and I thought, when they told me the rate, I said, great, give me the
Yeah, right.
2-day
then
special.
the tax,
$200 a day for parking.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
wow.
yeah,
Yeah, parking in Richmond that day is difficult and pricey.
yeah,
You're correct.
Well, and I don't know, I know in years past, some of us just got together and rode together
Yeah.
and just took a county vehicle.
yep,
And, for the ones that's gonna be there. Now, I won't, if that helps y'all, Baco for some reason always has their, meeting
Yeah, the night
on
before,
Sunday
right,
morning at
right.
8 o'clock. So that's an added night for me, but
yeah. Yeah,
I'm not getting up at 3 to drive to
no,
Richmond.
no,
Not now.
no.
So,
It would be it's 106, approximately, 165 miles one way to Richmond. So there and back times the .585, the reimbursement rate would be $193 reimbursement to drive to Richmond.
rounded up to 200, so it's $1,000,
Yeah, basically.
2,000. Yeah, if all of us go, and that's not the case. I think we add 2,000 to that line and 2,000 to the other, and just placehold that.
And that works.
So you're saying leave the travel, meals, and lodging alone? and
Nope,
just-
put 2,000 there and 2,000 in the next line.
In other words-
5510, 2,000, 5530, 2,000, increase.
Oh, increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, make it 4,000
okay.
instead of 2.
Yeah. Yeah, we had,
Thank you.
that's my thoughts. Looks like we had enough head nods.
You give us some
Now we go
idea
on.
how much it's gonna cost.
Head nods, yeah, we go on head nods
And
now.
how we used to do it, those that were, like Ed announced a conference that we're all going to, or some of us,
Wham.
we would call in the office, and usually they put it on the county administrator's credit card. That way all the bills came in here,
So we don't have to float the money to
Right.
get reimbursed.
Right.
Well, I was thinking from accounting purposes, because I do my best to keep up with tickets, but sometimes you never lost a ticket, have you?
Nah,
Not me either.
well, you know, in the sheriff's department, I was used to paying for everything anyhow.
All right. But that way then, if you're going to a conference, then you just call in and.
And it is good for us to make an early dedication to it, because we get the better rate,
Yeah.
we get the right place to stay, and, you know, so if when we get one of those emails, we can kind of all, you know, say yay or nay to going, it helps staff to,
I remember one time at Homestead, I went to check in on Sunday evening. They didn't have our card, didn't want to accept it. And I was thinking I was gonna have to shell out some money right quick. Terry was in transit.
Yeah.
It just happened about 15 minutes later, she shows up. I told her, I said, Terry! And I think she got a heated discussion with him on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she got it straightened out, but, yeah. so-
And
All right, is
So
that
is
all?
everything,
Same thing.
is everything else with, among the board of supervisors
Yeah.
block, as we're calling it?
I think
Do you have
so.
any other?
I don't think there's really.
So right now, the only suggestions at this time, recommendations, would be to travel and mileage, we'll put 2,000, and increase lodging and meals. I'll change the line descriptions to be more descript to 4,000, correct?
Right.
And then if you look, in your packet, there is an additional draft. Okay, I added a draft, in the drafts folder. The only change from last meeting was, Mr. Turbin's suggestion of the $50,000 for 2 new parking
Right,
places.
right.
Highlighted, and all you have is two lanes. It's just the, county administrative recommendation, and then the date and the recommended or suggested changes highlighted.
Okay.
So today, I will add another line for today's date,
Got it.
okay?
Yep.
And now, for additional drafts, or I could just continue to add on that one.
I'd just add,
Yeah, just add.
yeah, use the same one.
Let me go ahead.
Even better.
Simple,
So we're all on the
I
same.
agree. You know what?
For me.
You know what? If
Kinda gotta go out.
this makes sense, maybe I have another column next to it. I'll put the date of the meeting that it was recommended or
There you go.
suggested, so it'll be highlighted. So like, you know, Mr. Terman's suggestion was on 329. I'll put 329 next to that line item that's highlighted, and today you'll see 331 for these. Would that
That
help?
would be helpful,
Okay.
so we can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That covers the initial
In progress.
expenses, did that include that annual 4,700? It's
Yeah.
all in that
Yeah,
same.
the two
okay.
together was 2,300 or something.
Okay, and then you had enough, okay.
23,000.
And I figured, well, Benjamin, you was thinking 50 to 60,000, we just put that in there, we
Yeah.
don't use that much.
Well, I was expecting that for one.
Yeah,
But
me
does
too.
that count for like the increased staffing costs? Year after year after,
Well,
well,
no.
not year after year, but.
That's what I
Yeah,
was just
yeah, yeah.
asking him, make sure it was covered.
It had a one-time fee of everything for 19,000 something, and then annually 47 something, right?
Right.
On the,
So,
on our
I
new,
don't
Oh,
know.
Yeah.
yes, sorry.
yeah,
We were having a separate conversation.
I don't know that you have to put the,
It would be helpful so we know, oh yeah, we discussed that on Thursday.
I guess, yeah, so, and how many more, yeah, I guess you got 4 columns there. We're,
So plenty.
well, let's be positive and think that 4 columns will be all we need.
I would,
Well, remember, I'm not gonna add anything else,
Understood.
just the date.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm
Right.
saying it.
Yeah.
Other suggestions?
yeah.
Yeah, I sort of, more
Well,
meetings.
And if I might, you know, the other thing that would help is if you sit down and read like a statute book, I know that's kind of nerdy, but you know, we do that. But if you sit and read a statute book, at the end, you know, it'll say the date that things were changed. And it'll mention multiple dates. So for instance, if you guys come back and on the item you just added, the changing you all's travel, if we could put on there, discuss this day, and then if you come back and move that number a little bit, we can just put a comma, put them both, and you'll be like, oh yeah, we talked about that a lot. So that might help kind of gel things, if that works. All right, the next item is, I guess, our little budget. And there's just a couple of recommended changes here. So in terms of compensation, of course, as I said, my salary is pretty much set in my contract, and it, steps apply, that's it. But beyond that, when Cindy left, I need to back up for the new folks. So Cindy was in essentially a similar role to Kim's for about 6.5, 7-ish years. And towards the end of that time, there was a salary study done, which indicated a need to substantially increase the salary in that position, which occurred. And so, but then when Cindy left, we weren't sure how qualified, candidly, a person we were going to be able to find for that role. We were really fortunate to find somebody very qualified, and so this includes starting to move that salary back up a little bit. Are you blushing now?
No, I look behind me. I didn't know where they were.
So we could, that's kind of what that increase is. Mine is the same in there. And between that increase and then last year, when Angie picked up some additional duties that had been a part of that position, we increased her salary a little bit. So basically, if you put it together, it's similar. So, okay, off of the awkward conversation.
Do you want me to leave?
The other things that are in here that are changes, again, by way of background, so that line item for, the 2 line items for travel, really is more for the whole office. It just happens to be in my bucket. When you all offered me this role, you were kind enough to offer me the highest level of insurance, and I chose not to do that because I can get a really good deal through my husband being a veteran. And so my request at that time was that half of what that amount would have been would go into travel and training, essentially, for the office staff. Because to me, that's one of the most important things we can do for you all is be up to date and making the right connections and learning from other things. So that's why that's in there. And then, just so you know, the other half had been, just rolled into general availability. So that's what that is. And then the changes, the other change is that government affairs that we talked about, and candidly, that is truly a placeholder number. But that would be, again, for more legislative monitoring from someone who's probably already doing that, hopefully. So those are the things that are there. The computer and technical support line item there will be moved to a separate block that's going to be the IT budget. But we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to make too many changes to what the folks that have been here for a while have seen before. But as we go through this process, we'll be pulling all that out and putting it in a separate group. But that's what that is. And we are still pretty much on track, most in part because we have that big grant for cybersecurity, that a lot of these transitional costs are being covered, hopefully. But we're still hopefully will be within budget between this, and you'll see in a couple other places, there's pieces of it. And again, for those of you that were not on the board at the time, we strategically split that up because we knew we were probably going to go out and look for something else, and didn't want it to be quite so clear to our vendors what our availability was.
Right.
So it's there, so you could put it together, but they had to at least work for it.
Yeah.
That was the idea. Yes?
So what I'm going to do, Chris has put a tentative budget together. Dr. Millsaps and I, reviewed it. I'm going to put together, because I have to create an entirely different account number and expenditure for an IT budget. So instead of making this all over the place again at this point, I'm gonna tentatively just put like a side of what it's going to be and the amount, so you have an idea that what the monies would incur, or how much we have, what he will be spending it on, and how much the need is, and then I will tell you where we're getting it from. Pretty much it's already built in.
Right.
And I believe, there may be some revenues that will, not revenues, but monies left over, like, obviously the difference between payment of, what's it called?
Tech Square.
Tech Square.
15,000.
15,000 as opposed to, some of the additional initial amounts.
You can say the other company. You don't have to say their name.
Yeah, the other company, yes, true. So you'll have that, but it won't be in this templated budget, and that budget will, IT budget will not be until the next year, when we do the.
And it'll all be in one place,
That
then
is correct.
we can see what, instead of going through adding this and this and that, we'll see what our total, pretty much our total cost under the IT.
Correct,
in
I'm
one
gonna,
block.
I'm gonna give you like a separate one, a
Right.
sidebar of what it will show as of July. So when we start moving all the monies over, that's when the creation of that,
Right.
okay.
Especially in the
department.
new system.
That's correct.
And that,
Keep talking.
what I asked,
It's already
and
here.
what I asked about, and what I asked about the other day about showing all
Yes.
that will be next week. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, great.
So I think,
Thank you.
I just have one question, and you may be paying for it somewhere else. I noticed you dropped drug testing.
I was gonna ask about that too.
Is that under somewhere else?
no, so, as you know, and I think, I'm pretty certain we discussed this when I did it, but before we had random drug testing of all personnel.
Right.
It became it's pretty inconvenient, and it turns out that we never found anything, candidly. And so what I had elected to do and mention to you all is, obviously for folks that have a CDL, they have to be randomly drug tested, so it's still included in there. But otherwise, instead of doing random drug testing, we're kind of have a little bit of funding in case we need to do something kind of on an as-needed basis. And we have on our list to do the appropriate training and all of that, because there is a particular training for that. But so far, we've been really fortunate. And the number of times that we ended up inconveniencing the staff to go down and get tested and all that just was kind of,
Right.
yeah. So
But-
that's
but-
why it's
but-
not in there.
Well,
On mine.
you touched on it. I recalled on that. I just wanted to make sure that you have money somewhere in here. If you needed to take a
Yes.
test, it's covered.
Yes,
That's why I
thank you.
asked if it was covered somewhere else.
Yes, thank
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
How much does a test cost? Do you have any idea?
I don't remember.
It's not all that much, is
It's
it?
not anymore.
It's not,
No.
yeah, it's not that much, but we have to actually, of course, the employees don't know because it's a random test, but we have to actually schedule them out in advance.
Right.
Because the testing facility is in Roanoke. So they have to, part of the cost is paying for them to come out here.
I will say it was aggravating when I was running that part-time stint with Brian at the sheriff's office after I left Christiansburg. I'd work 2 days a month, and I'd get a phone call
Yeah,
and
random.
say, I get a phone call on Wednesday and say, hey, you need to be down at Roanoke by 5 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah. So here I gotta go down to Roanoke. Then I turned in for overtime or comp time or something for my trip
You
down
already
there.
Got something scheduled. you
Oh, it
can
was a
read
pain,
right
Yeah.
there.
yeah. And I was working 2 days a month, part-time.
And then sometimes this random stuff ends up pulling the same person
Oh, I got,
on the random. That,
I worked part-time 1.5 years, and I bet you I got called up 4 times.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, but you know what I enjoyed? When Brian first started doing it, guess whose name was first out of the hat? Brian.
Oh, Brian,
Oh, Brian.
That's funny.
Well, like I say, I just wanted to make sure that if you needed to do those tests, you had it.
Yes, thank you. And Kim and I were just chatting amongst ourselves a little bit. We also have some other alternatives that we could potentially use if we actually have we need to check this
A
down.
section.
Okay.
Yes, somebody.
When you, let me ask
Yeah,
one
yeah.
thing. When you say random, do you have to stick with that? If you suspect somebody may not be doing what they're supposed to,
So our personnel manual does allow us to, at any time, test any employee. So that is allowed.
yeah, I thought we need to
But
put a
we
hook
had
in
a
there. as Jerry
scheduled
said on that,
random-
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and-
good.
And like I said, it just, yeah, so it does allow for that.
Okay.
And the version, some of you know, I've literally been working on it on and off for about 8 months now. But even in the one that new personnel manual I've been working on for you all to consider after the budget process, would be included in there. Because it is very important to have that, to your
Yeah.
point, Ms. Chair, that if we suspect something, it's important to make sure we can do something.
For safety.
Well, and you
For
have,
the employee and safety.
and you have different people using, not to CDL, but driving like the county vehicles and
Yeah.
stuff, so
Yeah.
it's good to, I agree with keeping that,
Option,
yeah.
Yeah.
So how will we track the balances that we have left on this cybersecurity monies? And how will they be, I'm not trying to ask about how you're doing your job, but how are we,
How are you doing your?
but how are we doing our job? How are we tracking those cyber monies? And it was like when I would ask at a meeting about, have we gotten all the insurance monies? And, how are we doing that?
Apparently right here.
You anticipated that question, did you?
2 years.
But I just asked.
Well,
The other thing Chris he's very mindful of tracking, he knows what he has to start with. Also, when you get your disbursements, when we get all
Yeah.
those, if payments go out, I go to Bright, I look, I do a cross-check to ensure.
Gotcha.
So there's no, if there's no alarm,
Yeah.
I don't run to, we have this much left, but Chris will know, he speaks with Angie, he's very close, she keeps him apprised of what's going
Right.
on, as well as my back check when I get that accordion,
Yeah,
folder, and I
file.
go line by line and cross-check the disbursements. If there's question,
Right.
there's a big lump sum, like when you get the, what's the 249,000?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, right. Trust me, I went right to the, and I
But you
cross-checked
knew you
to
got a
ensure.
phone call.
But yeah, so that's the last line of defense.
All right, and then the travel, so let's go back to this travel, convention, and education. How will we know, it's not how will we know, but, so that's now everybody on your leadership team. Is that what I understand? So if Mark needs to go to a conference, Ladina, Tabitha, Kim, if you let her out?
Both
You-
Ladina and Mark Kevin, so they all have a little bit of training money in their group, but it's very small. And so what we've been using this for this year, for example, is we intended that both Ladina and Tabitha would go. It ended up that it was just Tabitha that went, but she went for a couple of days to an economic development conference and spent a lot of time talking up the building,
Yeah.
actually, to your question. So it's kind of for those things to allow other staff and just candidly to make sure that there's some available, so when they find something really useful, we talk about it at our senior staff meeting and kind of go from there. But it's just to have a little bit more available, not to necessarily say, oh, this is in Mark's budget and I'd have to take it from Mark's budget to give it to Ladina for Tabitha to go. It's an overarching effort.
So I did notice that you had spent, and please don't take this as a grilling, I just need to understand
Sure.
what we're looking at. So I had noticed that it was 8692 this year, and a lot of that, I would assume, had to do with training you took and everybody else's, is that correct? Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
And,
You can, go ahead.
you can talk. She says,
Yes, so as you all know, the trip that I did was actually to go to the governor's housing conference.
right,
And I was a speaker, so they waived my registration, but they didn't pay for anything else.
yeah,
To talk about the impact of having really good internet on housing and community development and economics. So that was mine, but as I said, I noted, some of the other folks in the office have done some similar, mostly conference kind of trips. So yes, that's
All right.
what it's based on.
all right.
Yes, next year I'd love to go to it. I think Kim and I will be asking you to go to some training to give us a little bit more background specifically on county-related things.
Right, okay. All right, and I mean, you know, I'm sure there's some years where you'll spend a lot and some years where you won't spend as much and, you know. All right. That's all I had.
Standard procedure.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
The 3310 auto radio repairs, is that supposed to still be 720 or it's 500 less at 220?
It's 500 less than 220.
Okay,
That's the recommendation.
Because we have newer cars.
I got you, okay.
Well, and we really don't,
Yeah.
we have not been using the van, so there are two vehicles that are kind of the general county vehicles as opposed to the maintenance trucks and those kind of things. And so one of those is the Tahoe, which does get used by a lot of folks. The Cindy was pretty much the only person that used the van, candidly.
Oh, and Pat Sharkey, when she would do events, she
Yes.
used the van.
Yeah, but other than that, nobody's been using it. In fact, when Chris went to use it the other day to go to something, he realized
Battery
it
was
was
dead.
out of registration and the tires were not in good shape.
Because it's sad.
What
Because
did
it's
the,
just set, so that's why we decided to
Because
lower
when
it.
I go, or Dr. Mills,
Yeah,
we
maybe
take
we
our own
gotta,
cars.
yeah,
We
well,
don't-
maybe we gotta
Yeah,
run it once a week or something.
Wouldn't the subtotal then be 500 less than the 453, 431, and the 453, 431 on the department head request be?
Good catch, 500 less.
500 less. That's where I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be
She put in a request for
452.
720 and then cut herself, didn't she?
So it'd be 452.
453,
There's an addition, the gas and oil is up
Okay.
500, so
Okay.
it just balances
It
out.
balances.
Yeah.
that's where it
That's
is.
why.
Yeah, I was trying to skim through there.
I was like,
Good job.
Good double catch. Good
Very
double catch.
impressive.
Yeah, catch.
Yeah.
and just to go back to the travel and convention, currently, I know it shows 86 because that's through February 28th. After the fact, the balance right now is 6,400 because of what Dr. Millsap was saying, Tabitha went through and things of that nature.
Oh,
So,
gotcha.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, doesn't that make me feel better?
Yeah, and again, just as a side note, Kim and I have made our own decisions to use our personal vehicles, and because of that, we don't file, the only thing I filed mileage for so far has been to go to
Richmond.
Hampton Roads
Yeah.
for that conference.
Right. Oh, right.
Once in a while, I might put in if I have to go really far, but that's pretty much, I figure, it's part of the job. Kind of like y'all, it's part of the job.
Exactly.
Would it be beneficial, so our Board of Supervisors expense for travel, meals and lodging, we could also do ours as the same description as yours, travel, convention, and education, so we are more consistent
Yeah, that makes sense.
descriptions.
Yep.
I could do
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
More reflective.
Yeah. Yeah, more reflective.
All right,
And ma-
and 5530? See that?
yes. And maybe do that for all the departments, so it's consistent across all the,
Yep, travel, convention, and
People
education.
get confused that way.
Yeah.
That's really helpful, thank you.
Well, there had been, you know, I think what had happened in the past, you know, as each department grew, they kind of made their own,
Convention and lodging.
yeah. As each department grew, they put another line in, and sometimes it would
right,
be a new.
right.
But I have a feeling, and this is something to jump off of your point, Kalinda, with the new system coming,
Consistency.
that would be a great time to rename, because I'm sure there are certain names that they already have populated that you can use. And consistency will be your friend for sure.
Thank you.
Because then you can run a report, like if I come to you and say, how much is the county spending on, you know?
We'd really like to make this all easy.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially,
Thank you.
and especially for the citizens, if they look down there and they see travel mileage, travel meals and lot, oh, they got this broke up into 2 lines, so it's harder to track.
Right,
You know.
yeah, right.
Calling it different names in different
Well,
departments and, yeah.
Yeah,
And, you know, not for community, for you guys, but also for an accounting, you know, accounts payable purpose. There's
Right.
times that, you know, Angie and I will sit there and say, okay, which line item?
right.
And then
should
it's like-
we- Should we code it to, you know, and then we're doing research to figure out, so again, it goes back to the new system, clean.
Yeah.
So, but if I could start cleaning all this up now, when we start making,
Baby
moving
steps.
Well-
some transfers.
And also the cleaner we make everything in the long run, it helps with the audit too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, just
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking
Yeah.
just now.
Right, so you could do gas and oil, is that for vehicle, you know,
Yeah.
6,008 gas and oil, is that also propane, is that vehicle only?
Right,
Heating,
Yeah.
there's just so many
yeah, so many.
options. No, I'm just kidding.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I'm all for anything that clears it up and cleans it up.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. We will take that as a good advice, and we had been trying to not change a lot of things in the process, but as we move forward, then we'll do that. And when we get to a final document, then we'll have it kind of consistently coded for you. Thank you.
Change it to make it easy.
is that the heat running or something, or raining?
It's
pouring,
raining.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's pouring.
If I might, Mr. Chair, the next item that we have on here is the auditors, the professional service increase, which of course we discussed at your last meeting 2 days ago, regular meeting 2 days ago, so that's reflected there. And then this next one, the Commissioner of Revenue, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Kim, as mentioned at our first meeting. She met with many of the constitutional officers, I think probably all of them, and kind of walked through specifically what they were trying to do, and to you all's point, maybe get things a little clearer and gave them a little bit more understanding of how they can move funds around within their budget document.
So for what you'll see consistently, but for Commissioner of Revenue, the first one, of course, the salary remained static because they're comp board state driven. They're comp board state driven. So at this time, to prematurely change it wouldn't be accurate for you guys. What it does represent, however, and when they send their over, they leave FICA, VRS, hospital, healthcare, insurance, and things of that nature. So, you will see that change in there, and it just represents the increases.
Okay.
Or it should represent the increases. Okay, so the other part is when the constitutional officers send over their template, they leave that first part blank. And you'll see they're very consistent, they'll put admin, meaning us, to fill in, because they don't have the VRS retirement numbers, they don't, so those will always match, okay? And then they'll have their recommendations, but again, on the salary part, it did not change as of yet until we figure out what the state is going to do. Let's see what she had. The field assessor, oh, that's next, I think, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this department requires drug testing, random drug testing?
You know what, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'll find out, I'll find out.
I think
Yeah.
through the state
I would
requirements,
It might be.
assume, but I don't know that answer, I'll find out.
I think.
Yeah, but there might be a criteria for the state. Okay.
Well, I'm not surprised to see the field assessors go up,
Yeah.
coming out of the pandemic, them Yeah.
So if I may,
So they've been busy through the pandemic, let me tell you. Haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
in Lisa's description, she went ahead and put that need 19,000 due to the volume of new constructions, permitting.
Sales.
Is that the same line item we're talking? Field
Yeah.
assessor, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
New construction mailing, so in 2021, the cost was $11,545.50 for 537 permits. New construction mailing, which includes data prep mailing out, new construction notices, things of that nature, as well as also Wingate charges a fee to upload our real estate information from their one program, CAMA real estate system, to AS400, which is the Bright system we use.
Well, we mean, if we go to a new system, we won't be charged that, will we? See, there's a savings
Or not,
right
as-
there.
or at least maybe not as much.
You know what, that might be a question we'd have to bring up.
I think
I
that,
think that
That's
it would be
okay.
included, but it's
Yeah.
something that we probably need to, but they're, because it's gonna take a significant transition period for this next year, we
Yeah.
probably should
Yeah,
assume
yeah, yeah.
that we need to.
I'm just saying that would be a savings.
It would be a savings over time.
I don't know, wherever you want to start.
On that land use lodging and
Yeah, that's
short-term
what I was
rentals,
gonna say.
what is? Yeah, it says land use, but then it's got lodging
Lodging.
and short-term rental.
So that's
Need
tops.
$2,000 for land use handouts with history forms for revalidation fee vouchers that we must pre-order from Taylor Office Supply, new application rollback forms, and other mailings for lodging, short-term rental, meals tax, for receipt vouchers to
Oh,
be made
okay.
for processor to treasurer.
Okay, all right. It just caught me, you know, them three
I
just
I was gonna say they never paid for any of my trips under that lodging, so.
It's actually for handout and forms that are necessary.
You made it sound better.
So they're
That's
actually
my job.
getting their forms pre-printed and not on a template in their own office.
Right.
Is that how I understand that?
We must pre-order from Taylor Office Supply new application rollback forms and other mailings for lodging, short-term rental, meals tax for receipts. I'm not sure if it's pre.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more about that, because it would seem that we could be doing it in-house.
number of them that they order of.
I don't know.
if they
I
could
guess, I don't know. Maybe not.
I think that's hopefully one of the things that when we eventually have a new system would be included. But
Yeah.
as you all know, there are many things in that office that still print out on a dot matrix printer.
That's the treasurer too.
Yes,
Yeah.
both of them are.
Yeah,
They do great work, but just as an example, when I spoke at the housing conference, and I was putting my presentation together, they had to fax me a dot matrix printout, and then they put sticky notes on there, with the totals, because to Mr. Booth's point, you can't total hardly anything in Bright.
it's insane.
And so she had to do all that, and then make a copy, and then scan it to me, all just to.
Very efficient.
Well, yeah, that's not just.
But she did it, and it was
You got all the
great.
Airbnb forms that
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
be
yeah,
filled
yeah.
out, and the normal bed and breakfasts, the hotel,
So
you know.
Can't make it up.
With this new system, will these forms be able to be filled out by the merchants online? Will they be, or will it still be
Possibly.
paper forms?
Yeah,
That's what they implied.
Okay.
You know, again,
there
our
you go.
next.
So then we're saving postage, printing.
Time.
Paper.
Yeah, they're gonna save from what I understand, a ton of I would put it under office supply
Right,
or
right.
paper. They're still using cardstock, well, the paper that goes on the
Yeah,
The
where you
multiple.
turn, because that's all that Bright will recognize for her forms. So not only for storage purposes, for retention purposes, for
It's crazy.
straight up
Right.
purchase,
So,
because that paper
right.
is
This is,
so
this
obsolete.
return on investment on this new
Oh,
system is
absolutely.
enormous.
It's gonna improve every department, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Just,
yeah,
yeah.
yep,
We just gotta get through one
Every-
full year.
Everybody
18
get
months.
used to it and get the bugs out of it.
Yes, yes.
So
I'm
that-
sure there aren't gonna be as many bugs as they've had trying to deal with what we got, so, just saying.
And Bright is actually becoming more costly with, you know, when you have to put a ticket in and
Yeah,
all the cart
right.
things and, you know, it's becoming less friendly.
I don't know,
in all
it seems
its
like they're
avenues.
pricing themselves out of business, but I don't know.
I'd like to know why the cyber attack didn't get the Bright system. They should have gone for that first.
Yeah, right.
I
It's so
actually have an
dinosaur,
answer
that's
why I
why.
didn't get the right
It's so
system.
antiquated.
It's so dinosaur, yeah, antiquated, yeah, it's just
It-
insane.
Very.
It's a-
It went past it, it thought,
Yeah, right, it looked
that
at it
can't
and
be
said-
anything, and just kept on going.
Well, it's a, Bright is a DOS-based system.
I know,
And
that's
so
crazy.
that was the reason.
I know.
I mean,
That's
DOS
one of them
based, I mean,
words
I was
recognize,
learning,
So how long's it been around? That goes back to floppy disk days.
seriously.
Yeah.
I'd almost say it was like, you know, it came out of the birth of DOS, which was out of Fortran, so
Yep.
Lord have mercy.
It's time.
Absolutely,
All
absolutely.
right, so next.
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 Are you good with Lisa's recommendations?
I
Are you good with that
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, it's all very reasonable.
I guess the NADA values is just
yeah,
It is
we
what
gotta
it
pay it.
is.
one of them things.
Yeah,
They're the ones that roared the hammer on us this time.
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
But we can do things about it.
yes, we can.
Now, just so you know, the request, and again, kind of waiting, the request is for a, you know, she's assuming 3 to 5% from the state,
Right.
which she has one employee that's not a comp board member. But that individual, when Dr. Millsap and I rolled up the recommended at least 2%, she is in that
Right.
number.
Okay,
So, you know, it kind of already eats that increase by one, you know, less 1%.
That's our land use employee, basically.
Correct.
Where we,
I-
that's
I-
when the county started paying for it.
Yeah, I don't know what title she holds for
I'm not sure
non-comp,
either, but
yeah.
when the county went to the land use program, that's when that position was put in and paid for by the county, or relatively soon after, so.
We already spoke about the assessor, so the treasurer, I think there's $1,000, was there? Yeah, she's a good treasurer. There was one different, I think she went up $1,000 from the year prior, and that was just to extend a little bit more flex part-time hours and have that availability, especially during tax and DMV.
Right.
So her budget really only increased through her payroll compensation of $1,000.
Wow.
Go Missy.
But that's not including whatever the state
That is
does.
correct.
You know,
Again,
that's a local,
But the total budget did go up.
yes.
yes, well, it's going to go up. You have an average of you have no less than 4,000 increase in everybody's, even if everybody
Right.
remained the same, whether comp board or not, just purely by insurance, compensation and hybrid retirement and disability. So it's a $5,000, just average, $5,000 to $6,000 increase per department and
That's
nothing
uncontrollable.
changed. So we have several departments, so if you add that up, that was a
Yeah.
big,
Big
you
deal,
know, a big, yeah.
big hit.
Amy's budget?
Yeah? Okay.
One of the, well, Kim's looking this up, you'll notice one of the, of course, the variance there has a lot to do with the number of elections that occur during that year.
Right.
So more elections, more cost.
Right,
And then, of course, you'll see that, in previous board, y'all had previously decided to start having election security.
yep.
And so, but you see she has a request there, but the amount is not as much as previous.
Now, that 50,000, that was added under the registrars, not the electoral board.
Right.
That was, I could tell you where we put it.
Yeah, because this is just the, 3 people.
Right.
It was under the electoral board.
Oh, did you?
Which is not gonna be unless you're looking at if you're in drafts and went into that budgetary line, it'll say, it's not gonna show unless you're in that budget. In that draft, excuse me.
Gotcha.
With multiple files at the same time.
Yeah, so what I would probably recommend is after today, we would just look at the draft budget would be the Board of Supervisor change recommendations, and look at that one, because it'll have
Okay.
your same numbers, but it'll just have also any changes that you
Right.
requested.
Okay.
Right,
By date, like we discussed.
all right.
And so in your folder, it's revenue expense, if you click onto that, it'll say drafts, and it'll be sitting there. So that will represent everything we discussed and your suggestions, recommended changes, or requests.
This equipment rental delivery to polls, it's 5410. Is that just moving equipment back and forth to the different polling locations?
And rent a truck?
And this increased cost is just because we had multiple elections this year?
Yep, fuel,
Okay.
multiple elections, yeah, the whole 9 yards. People.
Y'all have 14 minutes left from your targeted end time. So
It's not wrote in stone, if we can say.
we can keep doing this, but also wanted to make sure, before we leave, if there's, 2 things. One, if there are particular questions you want us to research, before your next meeting. And in addition to that, like I said, I've asked about Mark and Medina on Tuesday. If there are other folks that you would like to, at this point, ask us to put on a schedule to speak to, we can do that. Otherwise, I'll just keep asking you that towards the end of every meeting. But since y'all didn't really have any questions with the folks we talked about today, I'm not assuming you need to hear from us either anyway at this point, but. Okay. Also, I can just a moment.
Oh, 4-5 and then 4-7 are the next scheduled, 8:30 and then 12 next week. Okay. Okay.
Okay, okay. All right, want to keep rolling?
Sure.
Okay.
So it makes extra 12
minutes.
Circuit Court.
Circus court.
Okay, the only thing to throw out there is Rhonda made note of one of the conversations that from which she understands that was coming down from the state, may be the possibility of change in paying of jurors. Currently, we pay jurors, I guess, $30.
Yeah.
One of the suggestions or recommendations or conversations is increasing it to 100.
Whoa,
So if we reviewed, or she shared, one of the last bills, which was like a few drawers, and it was a $900 bill, that would change immediately to $3,200, just for one
Wow.
invoice for one juror, not one person, but a jury of one case.
does that mean the compensation of the jury commissioners goes too?
I'm sorry?
Does that mean that line 1102 goes up too?
You know what, I didn't ask her and she didn't mention that. We would just briefly spoke about the drawers and one of the things that were coming down the possible pike or pipeline.
I got my $30 just 2 weeks ago.
You
They
were
got
called?
you on a jury?
Ooh.
They did.
God.
Fred Kellerman walked in. I said they must have been intimidated. They pled out before they.
There you go.
I have
Fred
never,
looked at you
I
and
have
said,
wanted
"It's
to be
over,
on a
man."
jury.
Do you get summons
No,
every
I
day?
constantly say this. I have wanted to be on a jury for forever and I never get
It's my
called.
first time I ever sat on one.
Yeah, I
Didn't have to do
never,
anything. I figured I'd.
When you
I've
change your
done it one
license,
time.
right?
huh?
When your license is up.
I was surprised they left me on it because it was
Change of address,
involving
that's
my
I've never,
neighbor.
I've been in the same place for 40 years.
Them questionnaires you get and you fill out for
Yeah,
federal,
we
no,
we authorize.
it says law enforcement, I take my pencil and go. Because I had enough of courts, yes.
I've known people that have gotten it 5, 6 times.
So are we down to
Still-
circuit court?
I do, yeah, I have a question about circuit court. The janitorial services and the community room rental, is this a COVID requirement? And are we going to continue this use of the community room?
So currently well, it turns out the jury room in the courthouse is not big enough for a jury to
Okay.
meet and deliberate, for whatever reasons.
With,
So,
with proper spacing.
Right.
well,
With
even not
COVID
even,
spacing.
not, not even COVID spacing.
Even when they
You'd
have a
be-
regular jury meeting, I mean, it's.
Okay.
It's very small, and so what
It's
this
awful friendly
new judge
place.
has decided is to have them actually meet in the bank conference room, so they walk them over, and so that's what we have
So this
to
is not
pay.
COVID related?
No.
Okay.
You know,
It-
actually, that's cheap.
Mhm. It is very cheap, it's very.
Cheaper than building a building.
You're right.
Is the janitorial services for the county, is that bid out, or is that just always with the same
That's
crew?
We,
it's with Bill
It's
and
with
them,
Bill.
right?
Bill Fenway.
Yeah.
Like it's been like that for 20
Yeah,
20
most of the time he's, well, actually, I guess he's the only one, he's pretty much got a monopoly doing
Well,
it.
that's why I was wondering.
Well-
I've been here 20 years.
Yeah,
We bid it out,
We did.
and then it seemed like after a certain length of time, we did it again, and he was the only one that put in.
Yeah. So we
And-
have been.
So we just kinda got an extension, automatic extension, I think, in that agreement.
To
Yeah.
jump off your question again, so in terms of our COVID protocols, once they found out that it wasn't as transmissible over, I'm not saying that we shouldn't keep things clean, but perhaps, I mean, when I go to the radio station, I'm still using everything on it because I don't want to catch a common cold either, or a norovirus. But are we now going to look at returning to our normal base rate of cleaning?
Not calling in.
Not
the
calling it anything
$5,000
more
cleaning.
than our cleaning.
Yeah, we have, yes,
Have you
ma'am,
made
I
those
think to
discussions?
both yours point, yeah, we have, well, first of all, we were doing special COVID cleans, because you're right, when it first started, the protocol was, you had to send everybody home and clean everything and wear, the moon suits to do it in the whole bed. And so we did that for a while, and then we figured out that the money that you all had allocated through the CARES money to the regional group would pay for one COVID clean for every office. So that's why that number started to go down. And now we have not, it's been quite some time since we've called them for a COVID clean.
So now we're back to our normal
Cleaning.
rate of cleaning.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But
Glad they
that's
didn't.
also, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that, I'm glad they didn't up their rates because they was actually exposing themselves more.
Yes, yes, they were. And when they come through, they still have their mask on.
Right, oh yeah.
Because of that, so,
Yeah.
as do their employees.
But in the instance that will say we have an employee
that does test positive, then you still have the option to come in with the COVID cleaning, level cleaning if necessary, right?
But they found that that's not necessary to do.
Right.
COVID level cleaning is not necessary.
Not necessary
Not-
every
No,
time,
No,
okay.
not necessary
Okay,
At all.
at all.
But again, it will keep you from getting a norovirus or any of the other things that you get from
Maybe.
contact on stuff that normally would have happened.
right.
So,
Right. Okay. So, let's see, where are
General District Court.
we? General District Court.
not much there, is there?
Nope.
Education.
Okay, yeah. The new, request from Nikki, was $1,000 for education and dues.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we move on?
Yep,
Okay. Next.
magistrate.
Okay. So, as you know, most of these have really not moved very much.
I'm sorry, that's breaking the budget right there.
Magistrate's sort of like the medical examiner, they
Yeah.
don't change much.
No, they don't, do they?
I think when we were reviewing, Dr. Millsap and I line by line, if you notice, the recommendation, 250, so $300 between the two line items, because it hasn't been spent, and I think they received the resources within the courthouse from other areas.
Can I ask a question about the phones now? Will everybody's phones be broken down with our new phone system? Or will we just have a line item in the budget under general properties that says phone?
They're broken down now, if I may.
Yeah.
They're broken down now, kind of in that way, that's why you'll see telephone almost in everybody's.
Yeah,
So it'll remain that way, just pending on if, when, where, it may decrease. It will decrease.
it will decrease, yeah,
But they'll still have a telephone line item and
an
a
amount.
participation towards the bill.
Okay. Yeah,
Next one is the county attorney. That's our
Yep.
favorite gentleman.
We're waiting to get Steve on this.
Would we catch his eye if we reduce it by 10,000?
Or if we could fix a fake budget and cut his salary, would
and you feel like 50, is that gonna cover it? Because I know we've been using,
We've actually, well, when I first started, I will say, and of course, there was, since you all used his organization for the search, their bills were higher.
Yeah.
And when we first started, the bills were higher, but now they've leveled off more. I, for the most part, call Steve about once every other week with a list of, here's my 7 things. And so we have a very fishy conversation now.
gotcha, okay.
So hopefully we would, but to your point, we did Kim went back through the bills through Bright to make sure that that should be sufficient given our
Okay.
current trends.
All right,
pre-Dr. Millsap's tenure here when Terry was here, it was laid on me to talk to a couple of people that was actually calling our county attorney with questions outside of the government ones. And they was calling like, if they brought to another committee somewhere, they was calling with questions on them. So it fell back on me to have to go to them and say, look, it's not county business, don't be calling Steve. So my name was mud with 2 or 3 of them for a while, but, they was getting free legal advice and, but that's really cut down on our bill when we done that.
Yes.
Because it used to be higher than that.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate that. And then, in addition to that, since in the last year, we started looking at that bill in particular quite a bit and noticed that we had some employees that were calling quite a bit. And so we've changed it that for the most part, it's the senior staff are all welcome to call at any time. There's no reason, for example, for Ladina to go through me to talk to Steve about a DHCD contract. But for the other employees, we're asking them to, it needs to kind of be controlled through the senior staff, and that's also
And,
helped.
to Steve's credit, I mean, he could kept on bleeding our bill, but he didn't. He come and he said, look, this is the reason my bill's getting higher. And I
Yeah.
mean, we weren't aware of it.
That's very nice.
Yeah,
He has
he's a
been
good
very
man.
available.
Good man.
So once he showed it to us, we was able to, as Barney says, nip it in the bud,
Yeah, just as a side note to Ms. Cookenbook's point, he has been, he is always very available, and pretty much the only time that he doesn't pick up when I call is he's in court or, with another client. But
Yeah.
the number of times, there are several folks that I tend to call, some of you know, while I'm driving back and forth, and he's on my list. And so we have a lot of conversations like that.
Yeah.
Of course, his skin's got thicker since he's been dealing with me and Jerry.
As he said, he always leaves laughing.
Yeah, so, I
But to your
catch him
point,
off guard every now and then. So,
he's also sent some things already since Tuesday about some of the things that
Very
came up at
good.
your meeting on Tuesday that we
Very
can
good.
follow up with later, but just to tell you how quick he's been.
Yeah,
Some of that stuff.
yeah, he's great.
like him.
Yep.
He's a good balance of telling you what the law says and then offering useful advice.
And common sense.
I don't see how he keeps it all in that little brain of his, I mean, he's like a little computer.
He reminds me of somebody else. Elementary school.
Well, Mr. Chair, I will note that it is
Spent minutes.
11:30. So I don't know if I just, as the timekeeper, I guess, kind of timekeeper,
Well,
I'll let you all know that.
It's up to them, if,
That's fine.
okay.
I'm fine.
Because,
We can start there the next
Yeah.
time.
yeah,
and
it'd be a good.
Top of the
going.
page.
And I gotta say, we covered a lot this morning because we didn't interrupt each other and we, kept it on point.
That was really good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
great.
I remember, and Jerry can remember, when it was
Oh,
probably
yeah.
Linda too.
Yeah.
We may spend half hour just chasing rabbits around one line item. We didn't need to be doing that, So if we can keep this up, it may mean that we don't need as many budget meetings.
And especially when we were talking about $10.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I
Oh,
remember,
my gosh. Yeah, don't laugh.
I remember a few times we got so low, I think some got aggravated at me, because we hadn't had a raise, in 39 years? And we got so close one year, and we was gonna give ourselves a raise. And I said, well, we've always worked without a raise, we won't have to have it this year. We cut that out of the budget, and we was able to close the door pretty quick after that,
Yep.
And, sometimes we gotta make sacrifices too.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So to Dr. Millsap, if anybody has, if something, a question's come up, like if something that, just please email us and we'll make sure for the next meeting.
Just be on the lookout for more revenue.
Just if I find some on the street, just.
Yeah, just bring it on
That's not
over.
a question though,
check-
that
check-
was more of a,
Yeah, check the money tree and see if it's budding out yet.
you got it.
So, a quick
Can I-
question for Chris, or,
Can I make a motion to adjourn this budget, or do you need to finish?
yeah, we can go ahead and adjourn, because I just want to ask him a question about,
Do we need to
Cleaning
adjourn
these.
to the next one?
when's our next,
I was
gonna
say, it is the 5th.
Yep.
8:30 regular meeting.
That's, well, that's not a regular meeting, that would be the
Budget
first.
workshop.
Yeah, it's a budget work.
8:30.
that's at
Yeah.
8:30?
8:30? So
Okay.
next
So
week,
I'll take a motion
if
to
I
it.
might, before you do that, so next week, Kim's got the schedule in front of her, just to make sure everybody's on the same page about where we are next week.
Yep,
So next week, Tuesday, we have, on 4/5 at 8:30 a.m.
all right,
Work session. Tentatively, we have Brian, Ladina, and Mark will be in addition.
All right.
If you suggest somebody else, please let us know. And then after that, next week, on Thursday, on 4/7 at noon. That's the one
Yeah.
that was changed to noon due to existing engagement.
All right,
And again, that is both of them are budget workshops.
All right.
yep.
So then I'll make a motion to adjourn until Tuesday, April 5th at 8:30 for our next budget workshop.
I'll second.
Oh, she did it.
No, you did.
All right. Ready to go ahead? Ms. Bechtold?
Yes.
All right, who is the second? Is it-
Sherry.
Yes.
Okay, well, Mr. Booth.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Cookenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
And Mr. Turbin.
Yes.
All right, you stand adjourned. Thank you all.